Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
It's been here on Spaced Out Radio as it is roundtable time once again as we take a look at the end of July and the UFO stories that come along with it. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, your host, and I have a great panel tonight. Just coming over from Disclosure tonight, Thomas Fessler is here, our weekend host of After Hours. We have Dr. Doer himself, Marquise Elizondo Williams coming on in, and one of our previous guests, Nicole Weber, an experiencer of extraterrestrial contact. She is with us as well, because you know what? We're not doing this panel unless you got aliens, and all four of us got some aliens. How about that? We say hello to each and every one of you coming on in tonight. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, Raymond L. with the silver, Rugged Source taking home a nice bronze medal tonight. Chris 716, Lisa C, and Stone Hobbit, good to see you. Les Paul Holland, Raymond L, and Forrest Louie, thank you for joining us. Luscious Jules, good to see you. And Kurt M, Area 51. Ruth Kleber, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else do we have here? Oh, there's number 43 in your program, starting in goal with a 1.39 goals against from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jonsson. Lee Libby, what's happening, my man? Good to have you here. Donna Lair, welcome to SOR Chat. Michael Kennedy, how you doing? And Chris Teen, good to see you. Thank you. Jessica Obi Flett, my man, what's happening? Obi Flett will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Continuing on, Verpine, good to have you back. And who else do we have here? Oh, Obi, kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Thank you very much, Obi Flett. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you, my man. And much love. I'll let you know when I'm coming to Vegas next. How about that? All right, continuing on, let's roll on down to our good friend Eric Austin. Duke Skellington, welcome to SOR Chat. Hi, Jurassic Joey. And the Debster. The Debster will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Batting third tonight with a batting average of 2.298, 298 batting average. A-Rod, 36 home runs already this year. Sir Grizz, how you doing? Gizmo, Laura Lobbs, good to have you here. PC, a.k.a. Paul, welcome to SOR Chat. Noble Patrick, W. David Page, good to see you both. Lone Star Gemini, welcome to SOR Chat, thank you. The Ferret, good to see you. Skip to my Lou, Christine Lynn, John Music and his beautiful hair and beard combination, always looking tight. W. Decker, good to see you. Anthony Mack, After Death, welcome to SOR Chat. Mexi97 and Jan, how are you? Jenny White Bear, thank you for joining us. Super Crazy, Vin Man, how you guys doing? And let's see who else we got here. Daryl Zernick, Kathy Evans, Nikki in Seattle, just another guy named Harry, Richard Elmore, Matt Geek, good to see you all. Roger Murray, how you doing? We're going to start the radio side here, so that way we can let Bill WD40 into the chat room to lube us up for tonight's show. Mennonite Abe, we got Corey, we got LD Drums 20. Welcome to SOR chat. Andrew Reed, thank you for coming on in. Bobby Younts and Forrest Louis, thank you for that great super chat. Very much appreciate your nightly love and support of what we do, Louis. Thank you so much. Random user, welcome to the show. And let's see, the Scoopy, Cosmo, Fang, good to see you both. Firefly, welcome. And the lovely and talented Kira, good to see you. We love you. Tim Mothman, Lee the Bee again, Two Heads, welcome back, guys. And I'm going fast here because we're running out of time. Thank you, W. Decker, for your nightly support. Very much appreciate you, my man. And we got like 10 seconds here. And then we're going to get going. And then I'll just type in the names here. La, 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 la. Bright, thank you for the super chat. And Chillgasm, horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have a power show of panelists tonight as we take a look at the month that was on this show that we call the SOR Roundtable. It is focusing on the movement of disclosure or confirmation, whichever way you like it. But what we do know is that it was an extremely busy month with everything going on in the UFO world. We had drama, we had violence, we have aliens, we got aircraft, we have people ratting out people, and we got a great crew tonight that is joining us. So I want you to say hello with me to our crew for the next 3 hours. We have Marquise Williams, we have Thomas Fessler from Disclosure Tonight, who's looking like he's chewing down on a great burger, which I'm a little bit jealous of right now. And we have experiencer and researcher Nicole Weber joining us as well. And it has been just a monstrous month, Thomas Fessler, as we start you off on the program tonight. And thank you so much for everything that you have done to keep the nightly news going on Disclosure Tonight YouTube channel. You've done a hell of a job this month. It's been a busy month, and it's always nice when you're wearing plaid for this show as well.
I'm cold. I mean, it's only 63 degrees out. I had the whole house fan running for the last couple hours. In the studio, it's chilly right now. So I did say last night, bring back plaid for my super chat. And I said, well, let's put on some plaid and keep warm. But yeah, it's been a barn burner. Disclosure has been picking up. We saw the stuff, everything come up to the hearing, and it was not to disappoint. And you know what? There's so much stuff that's going on beyond it. You thought it was going to get quiet for the month of August. I think we're going to be in for a flurry of a storm. And you know, when Lou said earlier this year that we are not going to be disappointed from the new legislation coming out for NDAA, the stuff from Chuck Schumer was fucking unreal. Yes, write it down. I know it was unreal. And I know, I got to watch my mouth. It was an unreal situation. Holy cow. We have to look at this and say, look at what we have for legislation. Look at what we got from the hearing. And I can't wait to see where this is going to go next.
Me either. And you know, the excitement about it is phenomenal. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of details that I kind of went in on a very somber approach because of what we have seen in the past here. But the man who literally wears Lou Elizondo underwear, Marquise Williams. I mean, you're the type. I know you've been very excited about this past month. I mean, when you look back at the month of July when it comes to UFOs, I mean, this is something that has been unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, it was touch and go for a while there. For me, I was watching Ross Coulthart closely, and seeing his interviews. Since he's so close to David Grusch, the star witness of the show here. I was watching to see what he thought about what's upcoming with the legislation, with what's happening within Congress, with the fact that there is this bipartisan movement in Congress, and that our politicians in the U.S. are working on. The fact that the U.S. politicians are like having this bipartisan conversation. I mean, AOC and Tim Burchett on the same stage and like not arguing with each other about stuff. That was phenomenal. There was no bloodshed. So to me, it was a big deal to see what he thought about it. And he was touch and go at first. He even expressed some concerns about whether or not this was ever going to even come. This was even going to be like this, if this was ever going to come. And so I was concerned for a while, but I had hope because my boy Lou Elizondo said it's going down, and I believed him.
Well, we know that you are a big fan, and you know what? I'm just proud to say that whatever you think of Lou Elizondo, I'm so glad he's brought the chin hair back over the full beard. I know he had a big fight with his wife about that.
Oh my
Wife
gosh.
was a full beard type of lady. He liked the chin strap going down. I'm a big fan. Let's bring in Nicole here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Nicole. I mean, for us experiencers, those who have experienced the phenomena firsthand, do you like where this is going? Do you like where we're finally starting to see the attention given outside of the nuts and bolts?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Not,
well,
and I'm not sure what happened there with my audio, but
That was cool.
absolutely not. Yes. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But as I've, said so many times before, the disclosure I think that the experiencers have is completely different disclosure than what we're talking about right now. Like they're two totally separate things in my mind anyway.
I agree with you that they are two totally separate minds, but eventually those two paths will cross.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in the month of July that we're actually seeing the talk of aliens. We got aliens, people, and let's start right there. Okay, let's start because the one thing about all of us on the panel here tonight that is very rare is all of us have not only had UFO sightings, but we have had extraterrestrial contact and experiences as well. Some not so positive than others. Someone like myself, I've had the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to this type of contact. And it's hard for those who don't believe it, especially in our radio audience. For those who don't believe it, this phenomena is very real. It's very traumatic. Whether it's a positive or negative experience, it's something where you don't forget and you realize very quick that it's not imagination in the middle of the night or a bad dream in the middle of the night when all of a sudden you're waking up with marks on your body in the morning after what happened. And Thomas, I want to start with you on this one because the one thing that David Grusch, the whistleblower, stated emphatically, and we talked about it last month on the roundtable, but it's been hammered home even more this month. We are in possession of alien craft that are intact. We are in possession of crash retrievals, and we are in possession of the pilots of those craft. Now, he won't call them aliens. He won't call them extraterrestrials. He will call them biological entities.
Non-human intelligence, actually.
Non-human intelligence as well. Okay. We got aliens, buddy. This is the first time in the history of this subject where it has been announced we are not alone.
Yeah, I think we've known this for some time, and it's nice to be able to have people come forward and actually start talking about that. Although, if you talk to Sean Kirkpatrick from AARO, he's going to go ahead and deny everything that's out there, what David Grusch is bringing forward. But the reality of the situation is, yes, we do have intact craft. I think 5 or 6 of them, and we have at least 5 or 6 of ones that are in pieces. And we even got a story recently where they said that they went inside of a craft. They were pulling a saucer out of the side of an impact. When they were pulling it out, a section of the craft that was like a pie shape opened up, and when they went inside of it, this section of the craft was larger than a football stadium on the inside. And when they were inside for 2 minutes on the guy's watch, when he came out of it, he was gone for 4 hours. So we have a difference of time, a different dimension of time, a different dimension of space. And yes, there are pilots who are piloting these things and are part of it. And it's not just a bunch of drones. It's not just a bunch of unmanned or non-NHI craft. There's things in here and they're doing something. The biggest question and the biggest thing we've been waiting for, Sean Cahill alluded to this last year, the conversation is going to be going from the craft to what's inside the craft. And I'm glad we're finally getting to this, because it's great that we have these things flying around the sky. They've been there for thousands of years. But the biggest question is, what are they doing here? And why are they here?
Well, I think that if I can jump in before bringing you in, Marquise, I think that we also have to note too, Thomas, what hasn't been stated is those fully intact craft, are they here because they were given to us, or did they break down because maybe they had transmission issues and their warranty didn't cover earthly landings? Okay, I mean, we make fun of that, but that's the truth of it. Okay, the bodies that we have, do we have aliens that are alive right now? There's a possibility of that. Both of those have not been answered. And if you want to get real tinfoil conspiratorial, if you go back 60 years, almost 70 years, and if you believe the President Eisenhower story where he traded extraterrestrial or humans for ET technology, I'm just saying that's a conspiracy theory that's out there. It does make sense that we would have intact craft and extraterrestrials, not only maybe for testing, but to help us with that technology and to learn that technology. Thomas.
But NDAA 2022 and 2023 went in and looking to bring out the information about operations that are in play for us to go ahead and try and capture these craft. So we could say maybe it could be from a gift, but I don't really think so, because I don't think they're really that too much into giving us stuff. But we're going to have to find out. It's a give and take situation, and it's evolving. And as time goes on, I'm a person who's kind of in the center. If we did get the stuff for one way or the other, let's take it. If we didn't, let's go for it. But the thing is, as the facts come out, we have to start readjusting how we assess this to really start taking it all in, because it's been an evolving situation. And that's how we're going to shift from center to one way or the other as it moves on.
I agree. Let's bring in Marquise Williams here as we just got to mention Nicole, for instance, tonight. She is our fourth panelist. She lives in Iowa. They are under tornado watch right now.
Oh, wow.
So her signal is cutting in and out. And so I apologize for that, but we're going to continue to run here. Marquise, when we take a look at the fact that David Grusch once again was saying that he, has talked to people. He has talked to people who have eyewitnessed these craft, the pieces of the craft, along with the non-human intelligence. Let's just call it aliens, because we got aliens.
We got aliens.
All right. Finally, my t-shirt that I created 4 years ago on our store, "You Got Aliens," is true. I'm very happy about that. But what do you think, Marquise? I mean, this is heavy stuff for people to understand.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to say is I want to respond to what Thomas said. By the way, Thomas, I tried to get a hold of you, man. I haven't gotten anything back, brother, but it's good to see you on the panel tonight. Secondly, Yeah, I sent you some emails, but that's okay, man. We'll talk after
Yeah.
the show. I'm sorry, I had to say that. I really want to talk to you. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to say was that there is this talk about, and I had to take notes while I didn't want to forget this, mentioning about the beings themselves. The beings themselves, at least the ones that we're seeing, are alleged to be biologically engineered organisms. There's a Reddit post that was circulated around the internet for a while of last week or the week before that was also highlighted by Gary Nolan, who, by the way, is a microbiologist, a Stanford professor of immunology, who's well renowned in the field. Who mentioned he highlighted this Reddit post, seemingly arbitrary Reddit post, random out of nowhere, but that had so many different interesting details in it that microbiologists were commenting on, saying that this is pretty legitimate stuff and it needs to be looked into. And Gary Nolan called for that to be looked into by a panel of people or I should say a conglomerate of scientists from all different aspects of the scientific community to look at this Reddit post. I find that interesting. He also mentioned that the SALT conference that with 100% certainty there is non-human intelligence on this earth, and that it's probably not biological organisms like we are. It's probably like an automaton, or if you will, a super advanced biologically artificially intelligent, robot, so to speak. But when we're talking about that kind of intelligence, when you read that Reddit post, if you combine those two thoughts, if you kind of can look at those two together, you think of an organism, a biologically created organism that has a consciousness imbued into it from somewhere else, not just some Zeta Reticulan star system, but potentially what Grusch has been talking about, this interdimensional, or as he mentioned during the hearing the other day, the holographic principle that he himself, who has a physics degree, says is probably it's a plausible theory. And what he mentioned was that these beings may be projecting a part of themselves, like we project shadows, into our dimension. So it's not even the intelligence, it's a projection of the intelligence, a creation of the intelligence that's manifest into our reality. Why do they not? This is one of the things that gets me the most. The idea that we got aliens, by the way, whether they're extraterrestrial or interdimensional, they're still alien because they're not from here. They're not from here regardless. I think I agree with that, Dave. But also, I think that when we look at this topic, I do believe in cross-referencing our thinking about what these beings represent and what it means. And another thing, the last thing that I want to say is what Thomas mentioned about the craft. I know that story, and what they called it is time dilation, which is Jacques Vallée did a talk before where he mentioned that people were saying that they would see a craft that was the size of their home, but when they went inside, it was the size of a football stadium. And he said, how can that be? And he mentioned the interdimensional hypothesis, the idea that dimensional space to us, our three-dimensional space and fourth-dimensional time, it's perceived vastly different when you're in the presence of or inside of the craft, because it's using some kind of, if you will, interdimensional technology.
Yeah.
Nicole, we're going to bring you in here. Hopefully you're not frozen.
No,
And
I'm not. I think I've got the problem.
If I could just respond to that really quick, Dave.
Yeah, please, Thomas.
The one thing I'm concerned about is trying to say it's an artificial intelligence and it's an automaton. Does that open up the government to say we can do what we want to these creatures? We can experiment on them. We can do different things, and it's okay. Or we can potentially, take them out for that matter. And it's okay because they're not real. They're artificial. We have to look at ourselves and say, are humans artificial? Are we a species that was created from a non-human intelligence and we're a result of it? In that respect, we may be biological, but we're also artificial because we're not specifically of and completely from this planet.
I don't
think
think
the reproductive.
I don't think science cares. And let me give you an example of this, Thomas. I remember watching a documentary a number of years ago where these scientists were looking for this specific bird in Central America that was supposed to be extinct for about 12,000 years or something like that. Okay. And all of a sudden, on day 10, one of the scientists hears one of these birds zip by his head. So he tracks the bird, grabs it by a net, captures it. And the first thing he did was he snapped its neck. Okay. Because he wanted that physical body to be able to see and study how many times has it reproduced, how many times has it, how old is the bird, how, to do everything scientific biologically to find it. And I think that we as humans would probably do the same with any extraterrestrial being, whether it's a gray, whether it's a mantid, a reptilian, or another humanoid, maybe, that looks like Marquise, right? I mean, you never know, right?
I got it. You can't let. I'm sorry, Nicole. You cannot. I cannot. I got to respond to that. So the first thing that I have to say is, if we were to compare this organism to AI, we are essentially imbuing AI with an artificial intelligence, a type of intelligence that emulates what we call, consciousness, if you will. That I think it is evidently different than what we're talking about with these organisms, because they are, again, if we're going to go with the idea of consciousness being imbued into them, as has been stated by that Reddit post that was circulated by and highlighted by Gary Nolan, the Stanford professor I mentioned earlier, then we're talking about something that is vastly superior, not just in technology, but in terms of what it means to be an organism at all. So I think that, to your point, Thomas, it would be heinous to do something like that, because if these beings are, let's say they're nonviolent, which I'm not saying that they're violent or otherwise. Let's say that they're nonviolent, for example. If they're nonviolent, no human being in their right mind that's not a psychopath would agree with experimenting on them, because we fight in the streets for animals. People are out there saying, leave the monkeys alone because they put lipstick on them. You think they're going to let people do this to aliens that are far superior than us? And what if they want to be violent? Do you really think that people, after seeing all those alien movies where we strike first, are going to be like, okay, go ahead and cut up those super advanced, artificial intelligent? That's not good. I just don't think it's ever going to happen that way. I think people would galvanize against that type of behavior.
And if they do, and if we do it to them, and they do it back to us.
Well, the question is, who started it first, though? And that's a different philosophical conversation. Yeah. If they've been here for thousands of years, they told the Sumerians that they created them. At least one faction said that they created the Sumerians, and the Sumerians said that these Anunnaki, they didn't see us as very good people. We were slaves to them. I don't think that, if you really think about it, if they altered the genetics of an origin species, so for example, to create us, they've already been messing with our genetics from the get-go. So it would be us essentially retaliating against the gods. And I'm just speaking flippantly and hypothetically here. I'm just saying that I think that there's a much more complex way to think about that type of issue, and it's very difficult to assign any kind of intent to even them, especially them, because how can we possibly know what their intentions are?
All right, let's get Coley in here because we want to make sure that she checks out. Now, Coley, I have told the audience that your town is in a tornado warning right now, so things might be sketchy with your connection. But your thoughts on the whole biologics that the U.S. government could be studying extraterrestrials right now?
I think that if you look since day one, so is. And has it been, even if you want to talk about, David Fravor and the whole TikTok thing, I think you're going to see that there really hasn't been a normal reaction necessarily to something that can, clearly displays global air dominance over us. It's shown air superiority to some of our very best, the Black Aces. I mean, to say that our governments just sat back and watched these go by and outmaneuver and just all of a sudden now. No, I think what we're dealing with, there's a few different, I guess, if you look at this, a few different factors. And I just ask you, because I come from a little bit different of a spectrum, because I don't think we should even assume that our science is at all, that it even relates to how we're trying to do our, little box of earth science, and I don't think that's even possible at this point. But to think that our government is just now, that they know nothing about it or knew nothing about it to up until the point of they completely redacted, or you look at those reports, there's more information you can't see than what you can see. And I get so confused in some of this and listening and thinking, why are we waiting for our government to even, why do we care what their disclosure is? Because I see it so different.
Well, that's why I always say I don't think we are in a disclosure movement. I think we are in a confirmation movement of everything that is going on. And when we return from the break with this great panel tonight, Nicole Weber, Thomas Fessler, Marquise Williams, We're going to get into David Grusch and his wife. Who are they threatened by? What happened to them? Was it the government? Was it aliens? We'll get back right after this on Spaced Out Radio. We are clear. Do not mention that topic until we come back on air.
Oh, you mother freaker. That's so...
Hey, I'm plugged in right directly, so I should be good.
Awesome.
Be
safe though. If you need to dodge, you know.
Hey, you know what though?
Give me
I gotta
a
show
couple
you the
seconds here,
tornado in the background. So
give me a couple seconds here because I am way behind on our audience here. Thomas, thank you for bringing over a giant number of audience members from your show. You had a jam-packed room, over 400. We're at just under 300 here tonight. For those who are new here to our channel, maybe never checked us out, we are a hybrid of a live radio show, a live YouTube channel, and a live podcast. With the live radio show, we have to take commercial breaks. You guys get to see kind of what is discussed behind the scenes. We will come back in a couple of minutes and restart the show. So it is a little bit different. You may not be used to it. You may not like it, but it's unfortunately what we have to do in order for our show to be successful on the radio side as well. And I have not had a chance yet. I'm going to burn through this. Thank you, Val, for coming on in. Star Scarred, good to see you. Greg Maloney, thank you for the tie bat. I appreciate that. And always appreciate the super chats coming in. I will say thank you to everybody here very, very soon and I'll read off the list here momentarily. Where are we here? Scrolling on down, let's say hello to Kevin Clark. And who else is joining us here in the chat room? Skip to Malou. And thank you, T-Bone, for another great super chat, my fellow Canuck. Appreciate that. Lots of Canadians in here tonight. Thank you. I love it when our Canadians are in here. No offense to everybody else. But let's say hello again. W. Decker, again, thank you for a wonderful super chat, my man. Just getting this all written down. And where are we? So I'm about, literally, just so you know, I'm about 15 minutes behind in the chat room. So if I don't do this now, I'm not going to get caught up. Thank you, Chuck G. Very much appreciate that. Christopher in Texas, welcome to SOR chat. And who else do we got hanging out in here? Jeffrey, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. How's the train going, man? Give us a little honk on the horn there if you don't mind. Let's see. Who else do we got? Gorgeous Kim Jellin, super crazy. How you doing? And scrolling on down. Dr. Robert Steers, how you doing? What does he say here? Having alien biologicals may mean we have alien diseases and alien microbes. I know you would like to deal with that, Doc. I know that's exciting you right now. I know you're laughing. Hi, Cat the Kit. And let's see. Xochitl Paez Richards. How are you? Let's see here. Scrolling on down. Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube. Bryson's Folly. How you doing? Good to have you here. And John Ramirez, how you doing? Good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your silence, your cone of silence around the UFO story right now. Let's see here. I apologize. I know there's a few questions in here that I am trying to get to. Toothbrush wants you to put the tinfoil hat on before you speak, Marquise.
Do you think I want to put it on after he has a way better tinfoil hat?
I've got a better tinfoil hat here.
Plus, I stepped on mine. I literally stepped on it. This is so unfair.
Deadfish, how you doing? Good to see you. Timoth Man in your goatee. Dick Daigle, not an NHL bust. Yeah, going first overall in 93. Thank you for joining us, Dick Daigle.
I need one. Yeah, definitely.
Vanessa, thank you for joining us. Hi, Jeremy Jones. And
I feel smarter.
almost caught up here. Magic Mulder, welcome. The Other Side, how's it going? If I've missed your name so far, I will get to it. High Electric Cuttlefish. And let's see here. We are scrolling. We are only 10 minutes behind now. Maybe I'll have to finish up next half hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to get going in like 30 seconds. I haven't ignored you yet, Bill WD40. Thanks for lubing us up in the other chat room. Appreciate it. Cold Filtered on Twitch. Thank you for joining us. Ali D, welcome to SOR chat. And yeah, here we go, guys. I'll get you to just wait 2 seconds here. We're going to launch here.
I gotta get a new hat.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with our great panel of discussion of the month that was in the SOR Roundtable. Joining us, Marquise Williams from the After Hours Show, experiencer and researcher Nicole Weber, and from Disclosure Tonight, Thomas Fessler. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it. One of the things that caught me off guard in the most recent hearings was something that was said by David Grusch, the whistleblower coming out. That he was being asked about whether or not he knows of any type of violence that has happened towards people in this subject, whether it's being injured and or killed by the phenomena or otherwise. And one of the statements that he was very much about was saying, yes, he does know people who have been hurt by the phenomena. He does know people who have been hurt by other sources, shall we say, including him and his wife. Thomas Fessler, I know you, something like that wouldn't pass you very quickly. That would be something that you caught on to.
Yes.
What do you think David Grusch meant by saying that this phenomena and these happenings have affected and hurt him and his wife?
I don't think the phenomena hurt him and his wife. My guess is I have to be careful what I say here, but I believe what he's talking about is the deep state, this fourth branch of the government that's out there, that's above the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, that has been in free reign over control of the, if you want to call it, phenomena and the cover-up that's been going on for a long period of time. My guess, if he said that there's anything that's potentially happened to him and his wife, we can look no further than this organization that Congress at this point is heck bent on going and trying to uncover, bring forward the truth, and shut down.
You don't think that maybe he, because of his experience with UAPTF and learning these subjects and this subject matter, which seems to be an attractant to extraterrestrial contact, you don't think that maybe he's been taken?
No. My thoughts and understanding is that if there's any kind of threats or anything that have happened, there's been conversation. ETs don't go ahead and throw an air tag on his wife's vehicle. ETs don't go ahead and fly drones and other stuff around his house. There's things that went on as a direct threat to Grusch that didn't come from the non-human intelligence. What we're talking about is specifically that came at him from the human intelligence, from within this deep state of the United States of America. Let me correct that, from the national security state of America, because we no longer were the United States of America in 1947 when the National Security Act was put into play. And that's where we became the national security state of America.
Nicole, what are your feelings on that?
I guess I got a few of them. Let me back this up just a little bit. I'm just curious onto when you're talking about what I guess you're saying are non-biological. Is that what you're referring to as like an we'd probably call HET like a humanoid extraterrestrial, like meaning not from this planet? Is that what you
Sure.
meant? Okay. I just saw it go on. I just want to make sure that I was correct on that. And then I'm just taking this all in because it's good to get another perspective of it. But I just think that, again, I'm going to go back to the experiencers, and let me pose a question to any of you, Dave. I mean, whether any of you, did you walk away with them like showing you something, or maybe like telling you like in an experience, right? And some people, like I asked for the experience. I was seeing all these craft, I was like, I kept saying I wanted the tour. Well, I got the tour. For me, there's benefits. It was like a give and take. I almost feel like that it's harder for me to understand how somebody would think that they were being like malicious or because I've not had that type of experience. But I'm saying that
I have a retort for that. I got something to say. Two things. I wanted to respond to Thomas, and I want to respond to you because I think both of you had some interesting points. Guys, you got chat, get ready to throw some eggs at me because I know y'all don't agree with me, but let me just say this, okay? I think that language is important. I think that linguistics is important to pay attention to. And I think that David Grusch was explicit in his description of what he meant by hostile actions from extraterrestrial or non-human entities. He did explicitly say in the interview with News Nation that there have been deaths as a consequence as a hostile. He called it malevolence. He didn't say that this was an accidental or, for example, like coming into contact with the craft, that some people were receiving brain injuries. That's what some of the things that Gary Nolan was being pulled in by the intelligence community to look at. He specifically said malevolence, the word malevolence. I think that the entire theme of this hearing was there is a national security threat in relation to UAP. And when you got that coupled with, you got the two pilots that mentioned the encounters that they've had and the encounters that have been had over the last 20 years at least, and we know that's been longer than that, there's a concern by pilots who are flying into space or flying in our airspace. There's a concern if you look at the fact that they're infiltrating these nuclear facilities and shutting down nuclear warheads, which are independently controlled from each other, and they're doing it without being connected. Again, there's a lot more to it than just that. And to your point, I think that when it comes to the experiencer phenomena, they don't want to talk about that because in the DoD report, the first one, the preliminary assessment, there was a reporter that pulled FOIA requested that full documents, and they were talking about unexpected pregnancies. Tell that to your aunt that that's possible for it to happen to her. So I think they're not going to talk about the experience.
Let's get back on point here in regards to David Grusch and his wife. There's two things that it could go. Number one, maybe they become experiencers through all this. Number two, to Thomas's point, that maybe this is the government putting tags on their vehicles and getting threatening phone calls in the middle of the night. All out of a horror movie after you've given your life service for the last 16, 18 years to the U.S. government and protection of the country. And now the country is pissed off at you because you're coming out and saying that we got aliens and we got craft. I mean, that is the focus of what we are doing here regarding this topic. I mean, could it be both? I think it could be. I think it could be both, because the one thing that I know about the phenomenon, and even people that I've talked to within this governmental realm, the majority of those who are involved in the task force or looking into UFOs, since UAP are man-made craft, are experiencers. One way or another, they are experiencers, the majority of them. And that may come as news to some of you. It was shocking to me when I was told this, if I'm being given correct information by a source. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if both David Grusch and his wife were experiencers of the phenomena and the pressures from the government. I mean, that is a heavy weight on the shoulders there, Marquise.
Yeah, I agree. I 100%. Dave, I'm with you. By the way, the confirmation thing is fantastic. But yes, I think
interject real quick before I guess to wrap this all around is I too question how much of this is our government and how much of this is what it's appears to be, because there's been different things. I mean, I'm sure all of us can attest to that we've been shown or we've been told, but I do, like I said, I am skeptical myself to say 1000% this is, you know, a biological, or this was not our government. You know, I think our government plays a huge part in all of this, unfortunately. But that's, I guess, where my mistrust comes from.
I think a lot of people share your perspective, to be totally honest. My audience says this is in line with you, a lot of my audience. But let me just, and I want to speak to that. I think it ties into what you just asked, Dave. I think when we look at Jim Semivan's comments about he said there's an effing, you know, being on this effing play, you know, something like that. He's verbal, but it was hilarious hearing him outburst on a podcast earlier. I think it was last year, the year before, something like that. He mentioned that the phenomena paid him and his wife a visit. And it wasn't pleasant. It was terrifying. It was so terrifying, he didn't even want to mention it. And if you listen to Dave Grusch, he didn't specifically say what his experience, what the threats were, or what the fear is inspired from, who did it, because there's an active investigation about that by the IG and by this legal process who's trying to look into those claims of the harassment and the death threats or whatever these threats are. Whatever the nature of these threats are. We can only speculate at this point as to who's doing it and what that really represents.
All right, let's move on here. And Thomas, we're going to start with you on this one. I mean, the idea that there could be people harmed by these craft. Okay, we know that these UFOs create radiation. One only has to look at Stefan Michalek in the famous Falcon Lake incident here in Canada to see the incredible burns on his body that kept appearing for 2 years. Okay, and that is physical proof, not only on him that was documented, but his clothing is still in the University of Winnipeg in Manitoba. Because of this, Chris Rutkowski is the one who is able to get that locked up and put that in showcase for anybody who wants to take a look at it in a university level. So the point is, we know these craft have radiation. We know these craft have come ultimately close to multi-million-dollar jet fighters. We don't know if any of them have been damaged. We don't know if any of our military craft have been damaged by this. I know up here in Canada, it is 0% that any aircraft has been damaged by this. And I think we have to be careful, Thomas, that we know that there is radiation. We know that we don't know their craft capabilities, but we have to be careful on, you know, going through this threat narrative when we don't know what the actual threat is. We haven't been told what the threat is. Your thoughts?
Well, it comes down to a situation when we go ahead as humans and we go out in the African savannah and we go ahead and dart and bring down a rhino, and we go ahead and do our particular experiments on it, check stuff, put a track on it, maybe pick it up and carry it someplace else upside down when it's taken out. And there's a lasting effect maybe or something that goes on these particular animals. Are the same things going on in humans today as a lasting effect from this? Well, one thing we've got that Gary Nolan brought forward was the Claude A. Putman, which is a part of the brain. They've found that people who have had experiences with the non-human intelligence have a hyperactive part of their brain that's there, but it's not just from them. It can also be passed down genetically, potentially from past relatives who have had experiences, which brings in this whole generational effect of them coming and seeking us out. The other part that they found where there's a lasting effect that could be from potentially being near these creatures or whatever it is people like myself come around with unexplainable, if you want to call it abnormal but inconclusive immune systems that perk up, and the immune system is basically a written record of people who have had stuff done to them. Some people potentially may have had things done to them or other stuff that goes on to it, but the evidence and the information that goes on to that is kind of murky. So, from the people who are experiencers who have up close, there's a couple things that are pretty identifiable. We're able to get to the bottom of it as. Now, if we have jet fighters or other craft that are getting too close to a craft that's in operation, and potentially if the people in those craft get exposed to some radiation or microwave radiation, other things that affect the people, that's also a side effect. But, compared to all of the different cancers and different things that can happen from our own environment, from our own society, from everything that's going on around us, it seems almost like we may be taking some of this and trying to make it a lot bigger than it really is. I'm a person who has been through something. I have lifelong health issues that come out of it. However, I have to look at the positives. With any negative, there's always a positive, and you have to weigh between the two.
Very true. Very true. And, we do have to be careful, Marquise, that, we don't know how that radiation affects the pilots. Like, how far does that radiation stretch? Does it go through the protective glass casing of the cockpit?
Oh, heck
okay.
Yeah.
Is that how they are being injured? Or
that's a good question, by the way.
Here's another thing, guys, that we have to understand. If it's not pilots getting this, who's getting it? Are there craft on the ground that are landing at certain bases or in certain areas where military special ops teams are racing to get there and then maybe touching the craft? Is that what's happening here? Thomas, I see you quickly here.
Or did we upset the non-human intelligence and the stuff that's being put against the people in our government, such as Havana syndrome? That's another part of it, to where, you've done your stuff and now we're going to start getting you back for what you've done to us.
Could be. Marquise, your thoughts?
I think that would be petty, because if you're as advanced as the phenomena is, we're talking about an intelligence that has been around, as you said, Thomas, for thousands of years. They've been gods before we've had fire. If their perspective is, these humans have hurt our feelings, so we're gonna fight back occasionally, I think that would be petty. And if they're petty, then we have a concern.
There is no feelings to be hurt. If there has been actionable items when we've done stuff to bring down their craft, to injure their people who survived, to experiment on them and do other stuff, we could have upset the wrong entities in the wrong way.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. The question is, are there any examples that you can think of, even vaguely? Like I'm going to bring up a vague memory that I have from Leslie Kean's book, Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record. In Leslie Kean's book, she mentioned several incidents that have been reported by people, for example, pilots in Brazil that have ended up dead. Some of the transcripts she read out loud, and they were hostile actions by the craft, not by the pilots. Also, if you're talking about a phenomena that's literally, as has been said by the people, David Fravor and Ryan Graves, that this phenomena is what they consider they're prepping for the battlefield. That's what Lou Elizondo mentioned before. It seems like the phenomena is doing something that we would call prepping for the battlefield. We don't have to know what their intentions are to know that their behaviors are showing something that essentially is explicitly, it's the nature of what an enemy or adversary is. And on top of that, what?
Two things. Number one, okay, you're mentioning a lot of people who create a threat narrative, which creates budget. Okay, let me finish here first, Marquise, because I have insiders, and one of them who you just mentioned, who has told me point blank, in order to get the government officials to take this seriously, you have to create a threat.
Yeah, Elizondo said that. Yeah, Aldano mentioned that they're in order to get the governmental power, the powers of Congress involved in this. You need to look at this from a national security perspective.
But
I get that.
but hold on here. Number two, is every human bad? Are you a bad person?
I think we all have good and bad in us.
Are you a bad person? Yes or no?
I think I'm a terrible person.
I think,
and I'm always working to be better. I genuinely think that we are all terrible on the inside, and we choose moment to moment what kind of person we want to be. And if I were to look at the amalgamation of my choices, I'm not so great.
I would disagree with that. I would say the majority of people on this planet are good human beings. There are 2 million
pilots too?
Why not? They're human.
Then why do we see them as the aggressors versus the non-human intelligence? Why are we doing that? Yeah.
Why? Because their job is to inspect. That's your first line. Their job is to make sure that everything is safe. A fighter pilot's job is to command the air, to make sure that the air is safe, so that way the people on the ground do not get hurt. That's why if you go to the first Gulf War, the first thing General Schwarzkopf did was send in the Air Force, the Marines, and every Allied aircraft into Baghdad to bomb the crap out of them. So that way it took away their will before the ground troops came in and got absolutely, into crap. There was no crap to take because the A-10s blew the hell out of Saddam Hussein's tank and cannons.
Well,
okay?
let's think about this first.
But hold on, before we think about it, let me finish. Okay, what I'm saying to you is, if every human is bad, okay, or if every alien is bad, that's just like saying every human is bad. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what type of species they are. We don't know the intent of many of these extraterrestrials. Okay, you take Nicole. She's had positive experiences. You have had bad experiences. Mine, I've had all three. Okay, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thomas as well. Okay, so I'm not making a decision just because Leslie Kean's book tells me something.
Yeah.
Or anything. Now we'll get we've got 2 minutes. You got the floor, Marquise.
This is my favorite part of the conversation when people tell me I'm wrong. I do not make my decisions off of a book. I don't make my decisions off of one witness testimony. I don't make my decisions off of an article, off of a random person who made an alleged account about an alien, off of my own experiences. They're irrelevant. I make them based off of the amalgamation of data that suggests that we have something. And again, who knows what their intentions are? Who knows whether they're good or bad? Who knows whether they're good and bad? We don't know. What we can do is look at the nature of what's actually happening. And from that, we make a decision. If you do this thing where you're like, well, I think that humans are bad, so therefore aliens must not be as bad as us. I mean, what's the difference between your logic and mine, right? I think that we both could be equally wrong. The question is what is actually happening, and that we should base our thinking about this phenomena off of what we see, what we actually see, what the data suggests, what the pilots are saying, what the first-hand witnesses are saying, versus what Stephen Greer might have said one time after, he says that they're all our friends and that we should all just ignore the fact that there may be not ones that are not so friendly. That's I can't, it is irresponsible of us to prep the human race to welcome this non-human intelligence that has literally abducted children and done terrible, inappropriate things to them. And then we just welcome them into our lives as, we do it too. The worst of us do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The worst of us. We put them in prison because of that stuff. When they do it, it's friendly. No, it's irresponsible of us to do that.
Can I add one little thing here? We cannot take and humanize these entities. They're not humans. So you cannot take human traits and human behaviors and equate that to them. They are completely alien to us, period. And on that particular standpoint, you can't say they're malevolent. They're benevolent. They just are specifically what they are, no more, no less. I see you shaking your head on that, Dave.
No. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm looking at the chat.
I was nodding with you.
I know. That's what I mean. You're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah. And the big thing is this, we have to look at it with an open mind. They could be our best friends or they could be our worst enemies. There is no in between. Okay. And let's hope that they're on the friendly side. Sources have told me that the United States government has been in contact with 2 extraterrestrial species. One that's pretty darn good that wants to help us out. The other one, yeah, we may want to, prepare for war. Okay, Thomas, I think you've had that same conversation with that person,
Yeah,
but
we have.
when we return on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to get into the idea that maybe the experiencers were right. We do have aliens. When do they come into play? Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio returns right after this. Good job, guys.
Strong hour.
Thank you guys for entertaining me. I'm like the odd man out. I enjoy it. I hope you guys are having a great time and not thinking I'm being antagonistic. I get passionate. Dave knows me.
That's good. That's good. I guess for me, I'm not making a decision one way or another, but I just know from my own experiences, and I think we get like this just snapshot of something, and then we're supposed to make this big conclusion, when we don't even have enough of the picture. Is my whole point, I guess.
Let me ask you something. If you went into, and I say this all the time, people tell me they're, and I agree. I just think that it's like we agree on like our assessment, our conclusions are vastly different. We don't know what their intentions are because we're human and they're not. And you can't imagine what a non-human intelligence from some that's that advanced might be thinking. I agree. And therefore, that we shouldn't think of them as hostile. Wait a minute. We shouldn't think of them as hostile, but we should look at their actions as non-preferable. At the very least, non-preferable. I don't think that any father would want this.
What are
I
their
just
actions?
mentioned them.
Let's say
13-year-old girl
so
in Portland.
different. They're also different, right?
13-year-old girl in California, in Portland, California. 13-year-old girl in California gets taken by a non-human intelligence. She calls them the Grays. She goes into the craft. And this is a well-documented research. You can look it up. It's on the History Channel.
Just get to the point because we're running out of time.
She's taken. She's abducted. She's given inappropriate experiences. She has children. They take them. You want that to happen to your children? It's not about good or bad. It's about preferable or not preferable.
I've had it happen to me.
And but a woman has to birth that child, carry and birth that child.
No,
and that's what I mean.
Because they usually take it before that.
They usually take it way before.
I got a 13. Okay, 5 years ago, I talked to a 13-year-old girl who was or 12-year-old girl who was abducted. Guess what they did? They showed her how to fly the craft.
That's David Jacobs talked about that. David Jacobs talked about the contrast between the positive and negative experiences. He also talks about Stockholm syndrome. But
what I'm saying to you, and I apologize, I'm not trying to cut you off here because you and I both get very heated about this, and I love it. It makes for great conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, you can't continue to focus on the negative though when you don't know what the negative is. If you've experienced the negative, you're going to have a negative thought. And I know your experience.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can understand where you're coming from on that.
Well, keep in mind, I don't remember what happened to me other than seeing their faces.
Well, so apparently they took your hair. That's what they did. Because I've seen those bald pictures of you.
I was bald. I had no hair at one time. Cut everything. No facial. I take. This is why I don't use my experiences as a reference to making my my belief. Aside from the fact that I think they're real, my experience is irrelevant to what the nature of the phenomena is. It's irrelevant. But the amalgamation of experiencers is relevant. And if you look at the data, it is a textbook Stockholm syndrome relationship. It's abuser and abusee. It's textbook. Hey, little girl, I got candy for you. Here, isn't it tasty? Take them in the van, take them out of where they are, do terrible things to them. And then if they keep them, make them love them, drug them up, maybe get them used to loving their captor.
You don't know that.
That is 100% experiencer. That is, that's what people talk about.
You're totally.
No, I can tell you that each of them that I have experienced are totally different, night and day. The tall grays are far different than the short grays in my experience with them. But the last thing I ever felt was violated. Like I say, I'm an experiencer, not because I'm a survivor, not because I'm a victim of any. Because I asked, to see the tour. Like I
Yeah.
started where Cross kept coming, and I'm like, I want so badly. I kept saying it. I kept saying it, and then when it happened, I kept in my mind. I'm thinking, you got to work on, I guess, in like understanding consciousness is your awareness, right? In
Right.
another area. So I can say like I was aware at certain parts or certain times of the whole experience in itself, but
Yeah.
it changed my entire course of life. And I can't, there's far more, I think, positive things that have happened in the little trade-off that we've had. Do I particularly like going on my or on their time? No, I'd rather they schedule some time. I'd rather be wide awake to be to be honest, but I never experienced any of that, crossing the line into any sort of birthing, mother or anything like that. It was
Yeah.
never ever like that. But they did show me a lot of things and how they project things, our reality, and a lot of like really cool. And so you know, I guess I haven't seen that part of it, but maybe it's really in the
Many
eyes of
people,
people,
yeah, many people have. I look at research. The researcher, there's a lot of experiencers that have had experiences just like you, by the way. A lot of people, most people want to keep having them. This is what's there. At least according to one study, the 5,000 people that were talked about whether or not they have their experiences. They started off bad, but they turn out good. I get that. The problem is it's classic Stockholm syndrome, and whether or not they're human, we humanize. You don't have to humanize a lion to know you don't want to be eaten by one. You don't have to humanize.
Taking the free experiencers of 5,000 people and automatically claiming it as Stockholm syndrome. I think the people who did that test would classify that as not being Stockholm syndrome. That it's people figuring out what has actually happened. But I got to get you guys to stop right there because we are about to come back in 15 seconds and we'll reignite the debate. Thomas, thank you for not swearing that last half hour. Appreciate that.
I know. It was this.
Here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Idiothith is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with our fantastic panel tonight from our after-hour show host with the most hair. We got Marquise Williams. We got Thomas Fessler from Disclosure tonight and experiencer and researcher Nicole Weber with us. We are talking about the month that was, and a lot of it retains around the latest UFO hearings and all the stories leading up to it. And one of the things that was talked about finally was about people having experiences with the unknown. Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they something that is a threat to humanity? Are they causing injuries? Are they causing human deaths? What about cattle mutilations? I threw that one in. I think they just like a good T-bone steak. Okay? I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
Who doesn't? All right. But the idea behind this is, and we'll start with you, Nicole, on this one. The fact that these and we can thank once again David Grusch, the whistleblower, for bringing this up in saying that there are people being injured by these craft, by these experiences that they're having. They were very vague on what was going on, but you're an experiencer yourself. So I guess, how would you draw the conclusion as to what is going on?
I try not to. I've had, I guess, okay, so if we're gonna get experiencer here, that there's a certain, period of time after it happens, like 3 days, where I get flu-like symptoms. It's very uncomfortable. You can tell it is coming for every probably bit of trauma in your body. But I guess I also what has happened outside of that, um I'm not physically, mentally, emotionally, just I mean, the course of life, how it's completely changed was like one encounter. And it was like the changes that occurred. I For me, it's not anything that I would trade in this lifetime whatsoever. I don't see them as the same as like when you're talking about, psychological disorder. Yes, some people do who are maybe held in long, portions of tortured. I didn't feel like that because there is a certain disconnect of consciousness. We're not completely aware of what's going on. And for me, that screenshot of the pictures wasn't enough for me to see such like that veil start lifting on the truth, and where this has all gone is just absolutely, I feel like I am doing what I'm here and what I'm supposed to be doing. So, and that too, I think, is a big part of it. I have, come in contact with people who absolutely hate it. They're scared to death of it. They do not embrace it by any stretch of your imagination. And again, too, I question, even though there's a lot of good to it, there have been times and there's strangeness. Like you get strangeness in your life one way or another. There's strangeness like out there with, I've had things happen with phones and with my location and following and all that nonsense too. And you have to wonder how much of it is your government. And that's the problem, is distinguishing between the two of them. But I feel like I don't know exactly where it lies, but in every experiencer, there's truth. And what I see happening with all these congressional hearings and the same thing going on, Steve Bass, like all these people, and we got new players every time it goes around, but it never gets any further. It's always one more trip around, one more trip around. I don't, I'm not hopeful for that type of disclosure. And I guess that's kind of the last disclosure that I would even want. So for me, like, disclosure is something totally different. It's like where we figure out between each other and we keep the government out of it. So that's just kind of a little bit of my perspective on things.
I think that's a fair perspective. And Marquise, let's get to you here. Because I know that you are ready to put the boxing gloves off and go against any reptilian that comes your way. I mean, the fact that we do have these injuries, we do have these people being affected by these craft. I mean that is cause for concern for any human being.
Right. My gosh. So there is a difference between an ambient effect, or I should say an inadvertent effect, like coming into contact with what's been called electromagnetic radiation. The craft does emit this, according to scientists that have talked about this and allegations by whistleblowers in the past. The craft does emit some kind of electromagnetic radiation that can harm human beings. There's a study that's been done and released. The data has been released on this. I'm not sure. Again, I don't have this data on hand. But if you guys just do a simple Twitter search, Twitter has everything. I'm sure you can source it. Or there's brain damage as a consequence of coming into close proximity. I think it's 500 meters within the craft proximity. You can receive electromagnetic radiation or brain damage that some people end up losing their life as a consequence of. That is something that happens inadvertently. It's just a consequence of the craft technology, the instability, if you will, of it being in our environment and our biological being not being compatible with that technology, which is probably one of the biggest reasons why they say it's not our technology. One of the biggest reasons. It's not. We can't even be around the tech without having some kind of a biological negative effect that could kill us. If you look at the Brazil case, where people touched the being and they died, because the one military officer died because of it, because whatever was on the being's skin killed him by some kind of rare, disease or whatever. He died from it within hours. So there's obviously like inadvertent effects, but again, I'm sorry guys, my baby is screaming. But there's also direct conflict that has been mentioned by, for example, whistleblowers like Phil Snyder, who, by the way, ended up, he's gone now. He was murdered by who knows how, but he accidentally shot himself several times, whatever, in a hotel room. But obviously there's more to be said about the phenomena. And to your point, Thomas, there is this, and Dave, there are allegations. I'm not going to release anything that anybody told me. Just in the public sphere, there are allegations that there are more than one type of intelligence that we're engaged with. Most of them, from what I've found out, are not friendly, and there are a few of them that are, but they are the ones that are essentially non-interventionalist. And the ones that are not friendly, they're not non-interventionalist, and they work together. And so this is the issue that we have. This is why do you think it's being rushed so quickly? Why do you think that? Do you think that it's just because the government doesn't want us to interact with happy aliens? Guys, if these people wanted to come down here and change the world, they could do it like this. There's nothing the government could do about it. They could infiltrate the government. They can create a biologically created organism, put them to our government, and take over the whole world right now and make us all live happy ever after. They don't, because that's not their intention. It's not to make us happy ever after. Whatever their intention is, it's not for our benefit. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. It's not about good or bad. It's whether or not these activities, this end game for these beings, is in the benefit of the human race. 800 million people are suffering from hunger and insecurity. Most of which are children. And so you want to tell me that they have this tech, they gave it to our freaking military? Hiroshima, Nagasaki, they watched it and they said, let's give it to the U.S. No. Oh, man, we can't get it because the U.S. has it in a secret underground bunker, but we can also travel through solid surfaces and control your mind and manipulate your consciousness. I can't with this idea that I think that if anything, they're non-interventionalists. They're watching, the good ones are watching from afar. Maybe they think that we're suffering and it sucks, but they don't want to really interfere. But the ones that are interacting with us, stop letting them into your minds.
Thomas.
Well, first of all, I'll say they're not here for humans. They're not here to help us. They're not here to save us. They're not here to save our environment. They're not here to deal with our medical conditions. They're not here to give us technology and sprinkle it down like it's glitter for us to go ahead and use for our weapons of war. The biggest thing I want to bring out and actually say on this, literally, if what they're doing to us is so great, why do they have to put us into an altered state of mind where there's this euphoria that comes over you, where it's just like anytime I think about it, I still get it. It still flows back over me, where you're in this power of suggestion and they lead you around where they want you to go. And the only time you break out of it, when the pain is so horrible, you can't deal with it. And then you're out you come to for a bit, and then they put you back into it again. So if it's so wonderful and so great and everything is such like roses, why do they have to put our state of mind into it? Because the fear, the terror, what we actually go through in dealing with this stuff is absolutely 100% real. And anyone who says it's all roses and smells like popcorn, it doesn't. It's something that is a horrible thing that a lot of us will go through. And yes, I look at this as saying the glass half full, glass half empty. Yes, there's some stuff that I got out of it. Yes, it was a horrible situation that I was put through time and time again, countless times when I was a child. That's all behind me now. But the reality of it is, when you're going through it, it's a terrifying situation, no matter how you want to look for it. And I could say, yes, I want to go ahead and go through this. There is not one person out there, if they were to come to and see what's going on when they're going through it, would want to go ahead and do it. Just like it's not going to be like they're going to bring you into this spaceship and say, come on, let's go fly a UFO. No, it's not anything like that. It is a situation where they're coming in very tactical. It's not randomized. They know exactly where they're going. They know exactly who they're going after. They have an agenda of what they're doing. Once they're done, they kick you out and they go off to their next one, and to the next one, and to the next one. I have a passion for this because it's something that I've dealt with my whole life. Go ahead, Nicole.
Well, I understand. And there's there's a spectrum of experiences. For me to say that every encounter has been positive, no, that's not necessarily the case, but every encounter has gotten me to where I am today, like at this point in time. But I guess when I hear you talking about them coming and all this, like, can you tell me what pain? Because I didn't feel the type of pain that necessarily in that moment at all. Like
I came to on the
like I said,
table.
like afterwards, it was like a flu-like symptoms for me, like 3 days. I felt like my skin like was kind of crawling, like of trying to wrap my mind around things. And, I wasn't overly excited about that either. But I'm saying like there's definitely a trade-off. There is definitely a trade-off. But I would like to know, I guess, more on you said that when they come that they know who they're coming for,
Well,
or then why is it that some of us are picked, or why do you think, since you made that comment, like, oh, they know who they're coming for? Like, I'm curious
genetics.
myself. That's another. So you think genetics
It's either
plays a
genetics or
whole.
it's a time program where they're either dealing with stuff or they're going to have. There's a book called The Third Body Problem that they're actually going and making into a show on Netflix. There's this potential, if you want to call it, a sleeper community of people who have had experiences for things. And as we're all coming into this, we're all kind of waking up and we're coming forward on this to push this point forward in time. So all of this has to deal with their agenda. We're the pawns for them, for whether it's a medical things, but what they're doing for medical isn't just a random thing. Let's go ahead and find someone and bring out the Avi Lubin probe to go ahead and figure out where they're going to take it next. No, there's a reason why all of this comes together. It's just being able to take that step back and see the big picture. Sometimes it's hard, but we need to.
One of the things that I will say on this is, all of our opinions right now on this panel of four are completely different on what the experience is, and this is where it gets confusing. We don't know truly what's going on. Thomas, like you, I woke up on the table my first time, okay, and I'll be honest with you, I was giddy. I was absolutely giddy because I was like, holy cow, this is actually happening. This is kind of cool. Now, when they were cutting open the back of my head, didn't like that so much, okay, but it was an experience, and we don't know why they're taking us, okay, whether it is genetics. I mean, if it's genetics, why did I first get taken at 38 or pardon me, 40 years old? Okay, I mean, I wasn't taken before that. I've had regressions to look into that, okay, and it's just something that hasn't happened. But the idea behind it is this: one thing that we are what we're also forgetting here, guys, is like you talked about earlier, Thomas, about this shadow type of government. What happens with all the people involved in military abductions, MILABs? Okay, how do we know? See, here's my theory, and I'm just throwing this out there. It's my theory. I have a feeling that some way, somehow, the government of the U.S. and maybe other governments of the world have the ability to know who's been taken and who hasn't. And for those who've been taken, they get involved with this military abduction called MILABs.
Yeah.
So how do we know that a lot of this fearful stuff that people are experiencing now are not experiencing a MILAB rather than an actual alien abduction? Now, I'm not giving credence, saying I'm not the guy who's going to sit here and say that all alien experiences are peace, love, and light, and let's wave the new alien flag for it. Okay? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is from people that I know who have had both, they would take an alien encounter over a MILAB any day of the week.
Yeah. I think that, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can't jump into the MyLabs box. I don't think we have this technology. I don't think we have the ability to leverage this technology. And I don't think we're getting into craft with the non-human intelligence to go fly around and do things on our own citizens. We already have a pretty good way of taking people from schools and hospitals and other things and doing it ourselves. So go ahead and expose. For me, I'm more in the center on this. I'll look at some different ways and out there. But for me, the whole MyLabs thing kind of goes along with Greer.
Oh, I wouldn't put those two together.
It's just where I'm at. We're all in different parts of disclosure and understanding.
True. Marquise.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Thomas on this one. I think the My Labs thing is I get why people think that. There's someone who mentioned recently that there's them, there's us, there's them pretending to be us, there's us pretending to be them, and then there's them pretending to be us pretending to be them. And it's like that's the most confusing conundrum that I've ever heard. The phenomena does pretend to be us, and we do pretend to be the phenomena. However, keep in mind that there's a qualitative difference between what that looks like. For example, a black triangle is not a disc-shaped UFO that travels at Mach speeds in a hurricane, a Category 4 hurricane. I think that we need to really separate the idea of what us looking like them might be. The fact that we've had like these stealth craft that are literally aerodynamic and V-shaped, that in 2004, since 2004 and beyond, we've never been able to replicate a non-aerodynamic type of craft and fly that around with the type of behavior that we're seeing from this phenomena. We don't even have the ability to perceive at those speeds. Think about how fast they're moving. The human brain couldn't possibly react to a potential collision at those speeds. It's insane to believe.
But if they're at a different time dilation,
I accept that. If they're folding space time, then they're not moving through space. They're moving through essentially the dimension of time and space. So they're folding space or whatever and appearing in a different location. But even with that, they still have to react in split seconds, because if you think about the David Fravor account of the Tic Tac, they're bouncing back and forth erratically. We don't even think like that. We don't think erratically. And if we had a technology that did, how would the pilot be able to, we're looking at this My Lab situation as we can replicate the behavior of the phenomena. We can't. We never will be able to. Plus, they've been acting like this for, as you said, Thomas, thousands of years. You think that we're going to find their craft and that even they're crashing in the last 100 years, and we're going to master it to their capabilities? Yeah. Absolutely not.
But hold on, to contradict that, play devil's advocate for a minute.
Yeah.
If you walk in, if you see an orb outside your room, and that's say a 3-foot orb, and you get sucked into that orb, the next thing you know, it's the size of a football field inside. Okay. They can manipulate time and everything that goes along with that.
Right.
Okay. We don't know how that's going to affect the body. They may be able to manipulate internally to suit human beings. So that way there isn't that G-force
to Thomas, I get that. What I was saying is about behaviors, though. Like flight capabilities, it's possible that we can perform a fraction of what they're capable of. But if you listen to even what Bob Lazar said, and by the way, Bob Lazar released a video where he said, "Told you so." If you listen to Bob Lazar's scenario, his reverse engineering experience, they shelved this technology for decades because they can't figure it out. I mean, they're completely lost about how this stuff is working. So again, to believe, yes, we may have reverse engineered some aspects, a fraction of it, but Gary Nolan even said in his analysis of the metamaterial that's allegedly from these craft, a fraction of it will revolutionize human civilization forever. A fraction.
Absolutely.
And their whole craft. So like, nah, man, I cannot even, it doesn't even make sense that would be the case.
But here's the thing, though. If you take, let's say, vaunted researchers like Melinda Leslie, Lorian Fenton, Geraldine Orozco, Misha Johnson, Samantha Mowat, and many others in between that who have experienced My Lab abductions. Okay. These are people I believe because I know them personally, and I've had very private conversations with them about this subject. I do believe it is something that's going on, that there is some sort of mind manipulation that is happening from that sense of the game. Why it's happening, I don't know why. I really don't know why it's happening, but the fact is, it is for many people.
Can I just quickly, I'm not going to give a long-winded, the abduction phenomena.
30 seconds.
The abduction phenomena by itself, it distorts your perception of reality. There are screen memories as a consequence of coming into contact with these beings because they don't want you to know what they really are. They literally sometimes mask what they are.
My labs, nothing to do with My Labs.
How do we know? We can't tell, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
the people
there's
who are
no telling, man.
Memory is Swiss cheese.
You haven't been there.
No, of course not. I don't denote what somebody. I'm not saying that I discredit their experience. I'm saying that how do I know that I didn't experience my lab? I don't know,
Right.
but I do know the phenomena can make me think and see whatever they want to.
Bingo.
It's
They can
literally a
make you
part of the
remember
phenomena.
whatever they want.
Exactly. That's kind of what I just feel like. I feel like this idea that like, oh well, because and again, please take this with. I'm saying this with respect, not disrespect. The idea that there are some experiencers who have this and they make this claim that they definitively know, who knows?
Well, you know what? Those who've experienced it say there's a big difference. When we come back on Spaced Out Radio in the next half hour, let's find out what the pilots say. Is there a threat narrative going on between the Navy and aliens? We'll be back.
I hate to even comment on that because I think we should trust experiencers, and I'm an experiencer. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody's experience. I just feel like when you know, I am concerned about this rejection of reality, and I don't mean the My Lab situation. I mean that there is a dichotomy here. There's not. It's not unanimous. The experience, Terry Lovelace, they took me. They did all this terrible stuff to me. I was terrified. It was like they treated humans like cattle, like they were in a meat factory to be chopped up like chickens. I used to work at a chicken factory where they cut them up and they slit their, anyway, it was terrible, right? And they went on lines. That is exactly what Terry Lovelace experienced, only by these weird creatures. And they told him, shut up. I don't know why you're screaming. You know we don't hurt you. You know we bring you back. While he's listening to his friend screaming for his life and all the people around him being herded around like cattle, like these chickens on a slab, and they're telling him to shut up. I can't fathom the idea where that is a benevolent or a non-interventionist, or we don't know what their intentions are. They know how we feel. They know what we think. They know what you're feeling. Don't worry, we won't hurt you. They know you don't like pain. Then why are you doing this to me?
Melinda, we are set on the panel tonight. We're changing the topics in the next half hour anyways. So you were going to be changing up the My Lab thing, but Marquise would love to have you on to discuss this topic.
Yes. The audience likes your opinion more than mine. Trust me, even I argue with my own audience. It's fun. It's great.
Yeah. Can't wait to talk about the craft and about the quote unquote safety issue, which was more of a training issue. I've got videos of craft, and we'll talk about this when we go back live again, that are going 13,000 miles an hour that are intersecting the red arrows, which is an aeronautic looks like the Blue Angels from the United Kingdom. And these things come out of the back, come around, come down right in front of the plane, nose of the plane, going 13,000 miles per hour. Within 70 feet of the front of that plane. Here's the thing. They're moving at a different time rate. We're going in slow motion. So there's no risk to us as long as we keep on going. It's like dealing with a flock of geese, a bunch of seagulls, a thunderstorm. It's a training issue more than anything.
Wait a minute. So you're suggesting that the reaction from the pilots is the problem, not the actions of the intelligence?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Then if they know that we're going to react that way, why the heck are they doing it? Come on, man. I can't.
So why are they coming in an air show at 13,000 miles per hour, going in an air show, going in front of a craft and zipping off to basically show they have air superiority? It's like when you see it with a hawk, you see it with eagles, you see it with a bunch of different things. It's a life form, and it's coming in and it's showing it owns the skies. We think this is our best stuff. No, their stuff is so much better than what we have.
Again, you're saying that our pilots are the problem, though, and our pilots are saying.
No, I'm not saying they're a problem. I'm saying it's a safety issue,
training issue.
It's a training issue more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. By the way, I don't think you're wrong when it comes to that. I just think that in the idea that they. Listen, they knew where the cap point of David Fravor was. They're not just like these random bug-like creatures.
They rule consciousness. Simple enough.
Right. But to flex on us like that it's not a friendly thing to do. To flex on us.
It shows. It's not showing aggression. It's showing superiority.
But you do that. Global air dominance.
You can't be going around going into airspace like you're Stephen Greer on a dating website. You gotta it's like, look at what I got. Like, that's not
Yeah, but Marquise.
There's free energy. Yeah.
Okay.
Got that BDE. You don't need to do that. We get it. Like,
if those, we'll get into this in the next little bit here. This is why I hate in between conversations when it's not on air, because now we're going to lose a lot of that emotion and those thoughts. Okay. But there is a huge, I mean, if you take the Tic Tac incident, which I'm not even sure is alien. Okay. From my sources, I'm not even sure.
It's 100%.
That's complicated.
They were in the air. They came down from space. They zipped around for 3 hours and they went back up. They didn't go back to Lockheed headquarters. They went back up into space.
Oh, they didn't go in. I understand that. Okay. But I also know that there is a Tic Tac type object that has been worked on at certain places. Okay. And that's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point that I'm getting at is we're coming back in 15 seconds. We're going to restart the conversation.
Sure.
And we're going to go from there. Hold on, guys. Let me shift here. Have a good shift before next segment. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Walk out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Heated panel tonight on the SOR Roundtable between our great guests. We have experiencer and researcher Nicole Weber. We have from Disclosure Tonight YouTube channel, Thomas Fessler. And from After Hours on our YouTube channel, we have Marquise Williams. And we are getting into the technology of this because, once again, during the latest hearings, it was brought up by Commander David Fravor and by former Lieutenant Ryan Graves that these craft, whatever they are, were pretty much teasing FA-18 Super Hornets in the sky. One on the West Coast, which was the 2004 Nimitz incident, and then on the East Coast during training exercises near Pensacola and up the coast near Virginia as well. So when we talk about these fighter pilot incidents, Thomas, I know you're very well versed in this. We're going to start with you on this one. How much of a threat were these craft? The cube, I think of the cube inside an orb that the team from Ryan Graves' squadron saw. And then we also look at the West Coast where these Tic Tacs were seen, and Kevin Day on the USS Princeton had marked one of them traveling from 80,000 feet down to 10 feet above sea level in 0.78 of a second. Okay, so how much of a threat, if these craft are in that much control, are they towards these fighters, or were they just playing games much like we would a game of checkers or chess?
I think the if you want to call the motive behind this is to show our cocky jet fighters and pilots that we do not have the superiority in the air, that they are the complete superiority in the air power, and they're in full control of their movements. We may see them as out of control going 11,000, 12,000, 13,000 miles an hour, if not faster. But the reality is these craft are in total control of their movements. They're probably moving at a different, if you want to call it, rate of time. That's why when we have videos of them, you'll see them. We actually go click, click, click across the screen. It's not a smooth movement just because how fast they're going at the different rate of time that they're going. We're moving in slow motion. I hate to say it, but from my particular perspective, What we're dealing with here more than anything is a training and safety issue for our pilots, to where we have to realize, just like we have to know how to deal with a thunderstorm, how we have to deal with a hailstorm, how we have to deal with a flock of Canadian geese or a flock of seagulls or whatever it's going to be. This is how we should particularly react to it. Don't course correct, go about your normal part of maneuvers, and just continue on like they're not there. And if we can get to that particular point, then everything that we're doing, we're going to be able to continue to do like we've been doing for a long time. I've got a video from over Malta from the air show in 2021, September 25th, where there is a jet fighter doing through maneuvers. It's from the Red Arrows. It's the United Kingdom's version of the Blue Angels, where after doing a maneuver with another craft going across, you had a UFO come out of the background at 13,000 miles per hour, come down, pass within 60 feet of the front of the nose of the plane, and shoot off. Clearly, they're in a way, just like we had with the cap point, like what we had going with the Tic Tacs, they're in an area of superiority. And you know what? They're out there, if you want to call it hot dogging or having fun. But just like you will have a hawk or an eagle or different birds of prey come in on other birds and show we own the air, they're doing the same thing to us because they're another life form.
Marquise, let's get your feelings on this.
I like you, Thomas. Please don't be mad at me.
Oh, I won't. For what?
I disagree. Strongly disagree. First, I want to say you say that I'm looking at this from a human perspective, and yet you're giving this a human perspective as well. Let me tell you something about alpha and sigma males. All right, you know what an alpha male does? I'll be PG-13. An alpha male will go up to a person and talk about how great he is and how awesome he is, and he might even show you how great he is, if you know what I'm saying. And so, because he needs you to know how great he is, kind of like these craft are doing that you're suggesting they're doing in space. But a sigma male doesn't need to show you anything. You get it. You see their flight capabilities. You see what they're doing in space. They're doing it at a safe distance. They understand what it means to crash and die, because they can crash and die, and they don't want that. So if they know that there's a potential for an adverse effect that we would say is not good, and yet they're literally instigating actions from our pilots. I do not put this on pilot training. I put this on, if anything, I think they need to be trained about their behaviors.
Right.
But I
how
think
to respond to it.
100%. Because
Flat out. That's all it's about.
You're
what
right.
to do, what not to do, what is the safe way to get through it. And the thing is, I didn't bring up human behaviors. I brought up animal behaviors for exact reason.
And again, when you're talking about what they're doing, again, they're doing exactly what an animal would do, like an ape, for example. Look what I can do. Look at my power. Look how strong I am compared to you, right? That is not friendly.
The best pilots we have.
I know, and that's not, which even an animal doesn't know who the best one is, but they'll do it to anybody. Now, these beings know who the best ones are, and they're going to our best to let us know that alpha male personality we're talking about, that alpha personality, which is, let me show you how powerful I am. That is not a friend. That's literally a sociopathic, if not psychopathic behavior.
Nah.
100%.
I think it's a territorial. You're in our skies. It's their skies. It's not our skies. They own the skies, just like Spaced Out Radio.
This is our planet. This is our planet. This is our planet.
Well, you could say it's our planet, but in reality, it might be their planet.
Do you want to be subservient? Do you want to be subservient to an alien overlord? Are you okay with being subservient to an alien overlord, if you will?
Let's get dramatic.
Because I'm not.
I don't think that might not be what he's saying, though. But I think that if all that I've looked into, do I think that they were here and they're probably here before us? Absolutely. Do I think that there's law and order to some of this? 100%. But just to say, like, now you're looking at strictly military encounters. I've had several encounters. I actually have video footage that has been analyzed by MUFON, like themselves. I went chasing. There was they ended up being triangular craft, big yellow center to them, but that sucker came and beat me at my own game. It got down and it was on the road in front of me, and it was like, and it finally shot off. But it was it was almost like it was trying any way to connect. So when I think that I call it, you kind of lock into the experience. Like you definitely, they're feeling you just as much as you're feeling them. In my like experience with it all, it's like as soon as I break that, it's like that connection, it's gone. But I've come in contact with things there's no possible way that I think I could get on board. The first one that I saw measured to be 50 feet in diameter, and I stood 30 feet away. So that's pretty close up on a hill. So, I mean, it was like, pretty well coming close eye contact. Did I see? No, I don't. And unfortunately, there goes those gaps of time. But they have showed me a lot of things on how they try and simulate our reality. Like instead of going like and playing, let's say, miniature golf, they show like almost like a projection of themselves. It's a lot of what I think you probably start to see now in VR. But back then, there wasn't, all the names that we have for things. I mean, like the LED lights, even. Like when I first started experiencing, I'm like, they are so bright, but it wasn't like, so now we're getting more and more names, I think, in that. But I still don't think that we should, by any stretch of our imagination, pretend like they have any human intention whatsoever. They could be very well, I mean, and I think there are many different kinds, but I do believe that there are rules to the game. The ones that are down here on Earth, if you want to call them reptilians, you want to call them AGT, however you want to call them, do I think that they're within our best benefit? No, absolutely not. But I think that's where it comes in. I think the world that they're creating right now is conducive to their living environments, that the stuff that we are seeing and the changes that are being made in so many things, and it's my theory, kind of like my theory that I'm kind of testing, but that is so hard for me just to shake that right now, and all of that this hasn't been about us assimilating with them or them creating, like I said, an environment up, where we're all living and breathing beings that they can function into that. But again, that's just my theory.
I want to bring another point, a very human point into this for a moment too. Okay. And that is when I go out into the forest to look for Sasquatch and I've got our area, I can find footprints of a wolf pack, grizzly bears, black bears, mountain lions, big deer, 1,500-pound moose. They don't want me in their territory. And even though I'm sitting there like a tic tac in the sky, not doing anything, one of those creatures could come up to me at any time and try and attack me. One of those creatures at any time could try to maim me, kill me, because I'm in their territory. It doesn't mean that I have been aggressive. It doesn't mean that I have caused anything or done anything that's going to set them off. Maybe it's a mama bear with 3 of her cubs 200 yards away, but she smells me and she gets angry that I am near, she's got this foul human odor around her cubs and doesn't want me in her territory. Or a grizzly bear that just doesn't like humans because maybe a human has shot at the bear before. Okay. The point that I'm getting at with this is we don't know when those jet fighters are going in on a tic tac or in on those cubes are the ones who are being evasive to the flight pattern. They haven't stirred it up. They weren't causing anything. We sent Kevin Day on the Nimitz incident, sent those jets in to investigate, which would cause the Tic Tac to do evasive maneuvers. And probably because of the technology, play with our fighters a little bit to see what they could do. So to say that it was hostile, who was hostile? In my opinion, the United States Navy was hostile. It wasn't the Tic Tacs or these cubes that Ryan Graves saw. They weren't hostile at all.
Do you think that these pilots and together with David Grusch, who are also working with Jeremy Corbell, openly at this point. And George Knapp, who are again also tied to Lola Zondo, TTSA, if you will, loosely Tom DeLonge. You think that there is no connection to the narrative that they have been convinced about?
Yeah, it's called money.
Well, who's making more money, them or Stephen Greer? Because it costs $5,000 to go see aliens with him. I'm just saying, like, what money?
What about the
man?
Army contract that they got? The TTSA ended up getting. Why they
Yeah,
backed
guess what?
out?
TTSA is sinking right now. There was an article
They
that was just
sunk a
posted
while ago.
I know, and that's what I want. People, this is what I don't understand. This whole money thing. Elizondo isn't a rich man. I mean, we know, Dave. I don't want to get into the personal stuff, but you know about his experience after he left the military, and also when it comes to like what happened with TTSA. Tom DeLonge spent so much money into TTSA, and they've been having financial issues for years. There's
Tom
no
didn't
money. There's
He
Black
no
funded
money.
it with his
budget,
own money.
Black
Yeah,
budget.
he used his
funded.
own money. There's no money. There's more money in telling people that aliens are your space buddies than there is than telling them that they might be here to hurt us. And I don't want to get the threat narrative. I think there is what calling it a narrative to me is reductive and it's simplistic. There is something to be said about what the pilots are saying. We are experiencing something that we're concerned about, and they're not just like performing these non-violent evasive, like these non-violent behaviors. They are doing what is called, stated by the people that are involved with military strategies and war strategies and stuff like that. These people are engineers. They're not just me or you who are out there making our decisions based off of reading articles and talking to people that might know. They're in this. They say there is a threat to our Brian Graves started the Americans.
Sells. We go right back there. What about Lou Elizondo having stake in it? Do you think that Never Ship Empty his business that he's waiting on the technology that he might have
What's wrong with I mean, they gave again, I don't see what's wrong with wanting to make a living for yourself by doing what you believe in. Yeah, I think
I think you have to consider it as motivation.
What does everything that the American government does with its defense mechanisms is if there is a threat, there is more money for a budget for study.
Right.
Yeah, for them. Okay. But who's fighting against those people?
Well, here's the thing. We keep on saying we're worried about it.
If we're going to speak over each other, that doesn't really work. Let's allow us to finish our thoughts here for a second. Okay. And that's mainly because the StreamYard that we use, it melts the audio together. And I apologize about that. Okay. Because that's a StreamYard thing. Okay. But the point that I'm getting at is when you have that threat narrative, that creates budget. Ryan Graves has two different companies that he is working for that he has helped put together that are all about trying to detect UFOs and create technology to track these. That creates money.
Mm-hmm. That's wrong to you?
I'm not saying it's wrong. I have no problem with people making money. Okay. What I'm saying, though, is if there's zero threat narrative, there's no need for that contract that they're going for. Look at Enigma Labs. Okay. The biggest mystery going on right now that is funded by a billionaire named Peter Thiel. Okay. Put on by or set up by a millionaire whose former grandfather was the prime minister of Great Britain. And they are putting together a secret business all around UFOs and the funding that goes along with it, because they know that if they can convince Congress and the senators that we need to start putting not millions, but billions and maybe trillions into non-human intelligence and technology that is here, they want to be the first ones there to grab a piece of the pie. Okay? That's what this is about. This is what we are calling disclosure for dollars. Okay? This is about money right now. Going back to what you said, that there was no threat or that there was a threat on David Fravor, who sent the pilots in? The Tic Tacs were there doing nothing except doing their own thing. Who sent the pilots?
Observing our military strategies.
Who sent the pilots in? And why would an alien craft have anything to care about our military strategies?
I mean, I'm not a pilot, but the pilots say that that's what they're doing.
But the
You know,
threat
like-
comes in. The threat comes in, Marquis, is because they have air superiority, and the United States wants to maintain we have the air superiority against any nation in this world, and that's why they're calling it a threat, because they have superiority, not just a little bit of superiority. One of their craft could probably take out
Yeah.
our entire fleet.
This is
Simple
true.
enough. It's
This is
that kind of a
true.
superiority.
You're making a true statement, but your conclusion again is still, I think it's misguided at the very least, because
you're
what you're
misguided.
suggesting.
And yours is
I accept that. I accept that challenge. Let me tell you why I think you're wrong. hold on. Wait. Just, like, that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right. So thank you for entertaining me, by the way. Listen, here's what I think is. I think it's dangerous. I think it's Richard Dolan said that this very same thing, similar thing. He said it's very dangerous to assume. He said at least one of them is hostile to us. And if we go and we do this whole, well, you don't really know what the intentions of a non-human intelligence is, but yet you look at the abduction phenomena and you see nothing but terror. And then if you say that the abduction phenomena is disconnected from the UAP phenomena, what are we doing? What are we doing here? I mean, you say that you want a disclosure, then when we get it, you're like, well, not that kind of disclosure, because it's all about money. People that are doing things for what they believe is the right thing. A pilot that's in space and says we've had 14 near misses, and that's just the ones that are reported, because according to Ryan Graves, 95% of pilots are not reporting this, and that's just with the data that he has. That's why he started the foundation, because he wanted people to feel safe reporting this issue. Why do we see them like this? Why?
But from whose perspective is a near miss? Is it from the pilot who's flying the multi-million-dollar aircraft, or
Traveling
is
it.
it coming from the UFO that's running in a different space and dimension of time, where they're going along and these things come up like this and go around? It's like, oh my God, they almost hit us. From the perspective of the guy going along in a propulsion-based craft, yeah, but from the perspective of the actual UFO, it wasn't even close. So we have to take our consideration again. We're going from the perspective of the person in our aircraft versus in this other dimensional craft.
Dude, if you're telling me that if they know, they can read our mind, but they don't know this is going to cause that kind of reaction. No, man, they're testing our weapons capabilities. They're testing our nuclear capabilities. They're testing our battle readiness. And this is what's said by the pilots. Again, you say this idea that to us, it looks like we can collide with them. But to them, they know that they're not going to collide. They know that we don't know that. And so the fact that they know that means that they're literally doing it with the understanding that that it could cause some kind of negative reaction that could lead to a pilot's death.
It's like a bully walking up to you.
It's not benign.
It's like a bully walking up to you and going like they're going to hit your face, but they're not going to hit your face. You flinch, and that's what they're playing. They're playing chicken.
Yeah, but that's not benign. That's not benign. That is
How long has it been
intentional.
going on?
They are superior to us in every way.
Global
I'm
air
confused,
dominance and air superiority over our very best, and yet our government really doesn't care that much about it. Lou Elizondo, I'm not. I just the TTSA, whatever. You got to understand that on the opposite end of this, there are really two realities in this. An experiencer, they see things from a totally different perspective, and obviously many different perspectives within that one perspective. And then other people are going to see this disclosure as the government being like, yeah, the aliens, they're here. Like, I don't need anybody to tell me that. I don't need anybody to convince me. I've encountered enough craft. I have pictures, hundreds. And I'm just saying that in my experience with it and connecting with them, how many of them that are negative ones is I'm saying, could it possibly be your own government? Like, because you're going to remember, everybody remembers this just a little bit differently.
A lot of it is our own technology. Okay, that's a great debate. We don't know what they're flying at Area 51. We don't know what they're flying at other test ranges. What we do know is that it's about 50 to 80 years ahead of what we're seeing right now. Okay, but if we focus on the defensive part of everything, as we got about a minute to go here before we got to go to break. Okay, where do we stand on this? Because there is a lot of danger in the sky. We don't know what's causing it. I don't think that the military is as fearful of a threat than what we think it is. but we're going to agree to disagree on that. Okay. UFOs have been here for decades, centuries, maybe even millennia. And I can tell you right now that whatever is here, if it's been here for millennia, they aren't waiting for us to get into the sky to take over this planet. They would have got us when our best defensive weapons were a spear and a bow and arrow. There was, there are not as many humans there, but we're pretty good at reproducing. So they gotta look at
Some better
Marquise
than
with
others.
38 kids. Okay? All right. So guys, we got one more hour of the round table tonight. We got a emphatic, impassioned table tonight between Thomas Fessler from Disclosure tonight, from our after hours show on the weekends, Marquise Williams, experiencer and researcher Nicole Weber, and myself, Dave Scott. Here comes hour number 3, and we will stick to the UFO topic when we return. So stay tuned. We're going to bring it for another hour here on the Mighty SOR. We'll be right back.
Oh my gosh, I'm so.
Wow, Gizmo.
Yeah.
Be careful with that one. Be careful with that one.
Yeah.
Apparently, Kim gelling like the time that, like when I said impassioned.
Oh yeah, this is. Yeah, I believe the reason why I do this is because I think that I'm gonna be sitting at one day, probably pretty soon. I'm gonna be sitting in a dark corner, all by my lonesome, with a very select few of those who have witnessed this and seen it from a similar perspective, looking at the rest of the world, wondering what happened, how do we get here, and why. People are gonna they'll think that it's my labs until the day that the aliens come into their bedroom and take them to. I'm just being facetious. I'm not being literal, but the point is that I think that we are. The gods were not always kind.
Oh, Yahweh from the Bible was not kind. He was a very malevolent God. We have to be honest about that. You have to look about all the different stuff that goes on in the Old Testament. That was not a kind, loving God in the slightest.
Yeah, but the Anunnaki, the Jinn, the fairies of ancient folklore, there's a lot of different phenomena that represent the phenomena, UFOs, aliens, whatever, that have done terrible things to humanity throughout, again, for millennia. But today, we're doing this very strange thing. And I really think it's strange because of my concern. Sorry, Thomas. You were going to say something.
No, go ahead. I'm just getting a migraine right now, so I'm going to have to bail soon.
I'm sorry I gave you a headache, my guy.
No, that's okay. I've got a bad neck, and if I sit at this desk and lean forward long enough, it starts to get, and it goes around into the arm and then back up around the head and here at the same time. It's wonderful.
Oh, well, I give everybody headaches, so don't worry.
Can you give me another half an hour? I want to get into the one thing that we need to talk about here next, and that's Sean Kirkpatrick. We need to get into that.
I've got some things to say about
I'll give you another 15 at least.
Give me 30 and we got a deal.
I'll try.
I know. Just do your
best.
If
I don't get into control of this, it's going to be out of control, and that's a horrible place to be.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I understand.
Yeah, I thought usually you have the UFO reported at 11.
No, not on roundtable nights.
Oh, shows you where I've been.
You've been busy, man. You're busy.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I that's why I've been wanting. I really hope that I get a chance to talk to you seriously, whether it be live or not. I just wanted to have a conversation with you and see where you're at and how you think about things. Share our perspectives.
We all have different ways of how we see it. That's a fact.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm concerned. I think that I've been more balanced. Again, I'm being challenged by a lot of different people in the field, researchers who've been doing this forever, that have really balanced my perspective a little bit better. But nothing changes my concern. Nothing. I mean, I'm thinking. Yeah. People are thinking War of the Worlds. I'm thinking something much more sinister than that.
It's not all rainbows and unicorns. And there's so many people, even Larry, who's on my show a lot. He's probably watching. Hi, Larry. He is so heck bent on the situation that they're benevolent and they're here to take care of us. But you just have to look at it, and then you have to really ask the question, you got to be prepared for either scenario. You can't look at it all rainbows and unicorns like Greer, and you can't be all dark and dreary in another particular situation. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's not like there's good ones and bad ones. They are just, each race is just what they are. There may be a better race or a different race, but
I'm with you, man. I agree with you. I think that good or bad is not a very good. I used to do that when I first started, but I think that's a really terrible take. I had to learn. Good. I mean, again, is a lion bad for eating a gazelle, or you and your whole family because it's hungry and its family's hungry? It sucks for you, but like, it's not the lion. It just has to do what it has to do. If you come across, a gorilla tribe or whatever you call a group of gorillas, is it bad that they maul you and bite your fingers and gonads off? Yeah, for you, but for them, it's just territorial. It has nothing.
Maybe you have a race of ETs that their home world has been destroyed. They have nothing left, and they need humans to regenerate their civilization on.
That's possible.
And if that's the case, you're like, well, it's the order of things in the universe. What are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do about it realistically. They're that advanced. They're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah, the picture that I've gotten is that they are very well aware of us, of our place here, our feelings about our place here. They're very intimately aware of who we are and what we represent, and they're very intimately curious and interested in us, our development, and what some people call, if you will, the soul or consciousness. And I don't think that even that is in our benefit. And I think the concern that I have isn't that they're going to come and eat our body parts and kill us all. It's that they might have a plan for what happens to us after we die. And that is not religiously guided. That's based off of what people have like David. Eric Davis has mentioned some things about that, the poltergeist effect and
the farm.
Skinwalker. There's it's a farm for souls.
Welcome to the farm.
Right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. And that's what I'm concerned about.
If you got a migraine coming on, if you want to bounce, now would be the time.
All right.
I hate to, I would love for you to stay, but I understand what it's like to have a migraine. You've been on the air now for almost 5 hours. So
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Sorry for bailing on this. It's just that I can only go so much in a day before I have to call it quits, and I've recognized where my body is.
Hey, bud. No problem. And go get some rest. And thank you for what you contributed, bud.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Good night. It's nice to meet you.
Email me, dagnabbit.
All right. Okay, here we go. We got 5 seconds, guys.
All right.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Idololith. Idololith is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We had to say goodbye to Thomas Fessler from Disclosure tonight. He is starting to get a migraine, and those aren't very fun. So we're going to continue on the panel for the next hour here with Marquise Williams from our After Hours show and experiencer and researcher Nicole Weber. Thank you guys for being here tonight. And I'm going to start this off because after the UFO hearings, the head of the AARO program, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, wrote a little bit of a controversial note that really, put into perspective some weird thoughts and maybe got himself in trouble legally. let's read this letter here for you. Okay. It says, it's called Hearings and Transparency, Sean M. Kirkpatrick, PhD. He goes, let me begin by saying that the following are my own personal observations and opinion, which do not necessarily represent official DOD or Department of Defense or IC, which is intelligence community positions. Yesterday, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs held an open hearing on UAP during which a government cover-up of extraterrestrials was alleged. I wholeheartedly applaud congressional efforts to get to the truth about what UAP are and the risks to both pilot safety and national security. I am also absolutely committed to transparency on both the historical mission and the operational mission. As the director of AARO's amazingly talented, devoted, and highly motivated team, however, I cannot let yesterday's hearings pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defense and intelligence community who chose to join AARO, many with not unreasonable anxieties about the career risks this would entail, that have been working diligently, tirelessly, and often in the face of harassment and animosity to satisfy their congressionally mandated mission. They are truth seekers, as am I, but you certainly would not get that impression from yesterday's hearings. AARO was established by law to investigate the allegations and assertions presented in yesterday's hearing. Allegations by its witnesses of retaliation, to include physical assault and hints of murder, are extraordinarily serious, which is why the law enforcement is a critical member of AARO's team, specifically to address and take swift action should anyone come forward with such claims. Yet, contrary to assertions made in the hearing, the central source of those allegations has refused to speak with AARO. Furthermore, some information reportedly provided to Congress has not been provided to AARO, raising additional questions about the true commitment to transparency by some congressional elements. The subcommittee, whose questions and oversight duties are irreproachable and in genuine need of answers, has never asked AARO for an update on the reporting system, the historical review, and the operations and the S&T strategy that AARO leads and is undertaking. A rational person watching the hearing might reasonably assume that both the witnesses and the members had an understanding of the department's and the IC's progress since the establishment of AARO around this time last year, only naturally leading them to conclude that AARO has been ineffective, non-transparent, and delinquent in its legislated mission. AARO's briefs the defense and intel committees regularly, and since the last NDAA, the Homeland Defense, S&T, and several other committees as well. I am deeply disappointed at the denigration of AARO's dedicated men and women hailing from the Department of Defense, intelligence community, and civil partners who are pouring their hearts out working this issue on behalf of Congress. AARO has the authorities and resources necessary to execute this mission to meeting congressional intent. And as we have stated before, AARO welcomes anyone with knowledge of any of these allegations or programs to talk with us in a safe, secure, and appropriately cleared environment. Rest assured, AARO will follow the data wherever it leads. Finally, to be clear, AARO has yet to find any credible evidence to support the allegations of any reverse engineering program for non-human technology. Also, to be clear, none of the whistleblowers from yesterday's hearing ever worked for AARO or was ever a representative to AARO, contrary to statements made in testimony and in the media. Now, the one thing that we do know is that Sean Kirkpatrick has since taken this tweet down that he posted. There seems to be a lot of vitriol. There seems to be a lot of disparaging comments that he believes is happening. Marquise, I want to get your opinion on this because there's a lot of anger in his words that he's not too happy. But here's my thing, my question about it If he was not asked this in the last two hearings that he has been a part of, what have these congressional hearings are going on? He sat right there. When he was interviewed on camera by Senator Gillibrand, he did nothing but say that we got nothing except our reports are up to 800. That's what we got. 800 reports, both military and from the FAA. That's it. Your mic's on mute.
Sorry, I've been. So he also said, and that's an excellent point, bringing up the Kirsten Gillibrand conversation that he had in the public here. Kirsten Gillibrand asked him about the process for collecting information from whistleblowers and how that was going. He said, "Oh, we have a process. We talked to about 24 witnesses, and we collected their accounts and everything like that." Now, keep in mind, those witnesses were Mario Woods was one of those witnesses. Mario Woods. After that conversation with Kirsten Gillibrand, by the way, who asked him if he needed any more funding, which he said yes. She asked him about the process for collecting data. He said he's working on making a public process, disclosure of what the processes and the information and data he's collected. He hasn't gotten any response back from the Pentagon about that, or the DoD about that process. He's just been literally sitting on his hands, at least seemingly sitting on his hands with all this information and data that he has collected, and not sharing it with the American people. And then he wants to go and he say that, oh, we're trying really hard and all this stuff like that. That's great. You got to increase funding. They gave him increased funding. Gillibrand made sure of that. She called for increased funding that he needed. They asked him if he needed Title 50 clearance because Title 10 wasn't enough. He said, well, yes, I could use that. Then he goes in an interview recently and says, I don't need it. I don't think there's any programs hiding from me. Then he makes a statement that's this very ambiguous statement, where he claims that that David Grusch was never a part of or represented AARO, which David Grusch never said he represented AARO. He said that it was his responsibility to report to AARO, just like he did with the previous UAP task force. Again, it has been made very clear that people have given Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick's office, the AARO office, testimony and information to these claims that they made about non-human intelligence, about non-human craft and technology, about locations of bases, and about people involved in with these programs. And he's done nothing except come out and say, well, even though I have all that data, I have no credible evidence of non-human intelligence or any vehicles that defy the laws of physics. That is why people are upset. Because he's full of cow dung.
It's unbelievable. It really is.
Unbelievable.
I mean, this is a guy who runs a UFO program, but says UFOs are not here. Yet there's plenty of evidence that is going on. I mean, here's the thing that I don't get. You're saying that there is no UFOs, yet Congressman Matt Gaetz, who to me looks like Beavis and Butthead have a love child. Okay? I mean, no offense to the guy, but I mean, that's not a 4-head or a 5-head. That's a 6-head.
Oh dang!
Okay, yeah, I went there. The only, if you put Nick Pope's Velcro hair on him, holy cow, you'd never want to stick him to a wall. Okay. The point that I'm getting at is this. Matt Gaetz came out in that hearing and dropped a bomb about Eglin Air Force Base and how they had a major sighting of a cube, and that the pilots and the personnel of that base went to report it to AARO and were told by the U.S. Air Force to shut up.
Yeah, you know about that.
There would be absolute consequences to their Air Force careers.
This is after the NDAA, the whistleblower protection.
That's right. That's right.
So,
right. So, I mean, there's a ton of response to what is going on with this, and I just cannot understand where Kirkpatrick is coming from. Now, there is a big rumor going around in the inner circles that Kirkpatrick is setting himself up for his post AARO career, which would likely be with Enigma Labs. He is said to be very close with Peter Thiel, the billionaire who is funding it. Okay. But we also know that both Kirkpatrick and Lou Elizondo are not the best of friends. So the fact that Elizondo is a supporter of David Grusch makes sense why Kirkpatrick would not want to trust anything that he has said. I mean, apparently there is potential legal ramifications with what he said, because I don't think a government official is allowed to put down or insult a congressional hearing that's legal. I don't know. I'm Canadian, so I don't know how it works in the United States.
They've just recently, one of the National Libertarian Party, I believe it was, said that I think it was Nina Turner. I'm not really good at politics, but Nina Turner would be like, it would be beneficial for her to pick fruits or pick vegetables or something like that, which is like essentially that she was a black woman, and they told her to essentially pick cotton. Like, they would be better for her to pick cotton, because she suggested that people should get health care in this country. The banter is off the rails in the US. People are on both sides. They will run people into talk about their sex life, talk about the racist stuff, talk about the bigoted. They don't care what's going on. People are always, the US is all about that. That's what inspires the people, is all this this offensive and aggressive conversation towards the other party, the edgy talk. They love that stuff. I think that what in the US, at least, when it comes to why Sean Kirkpatrick, for example, removed his post, is because he had too many contradictions in his statement, which let people poke holes in it all day long. All he did was set himself up to be a target of what we call this target of a focus for discrediting what he said and calling him out on his BS. He said,
well, this is what Jeremy Corbell responded with.
Oh, yeah.
He says, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick made dangerous errors in his public response regarding the recent congressional UFO hearing that we planned and held this past Wednesday, July 26th in Washington, D.C. Other than Dr. Kirkpatrick seemingly not knowing the difference between the one whistleblower, David Grusch, and the two decorated Top Gun fighter pilots and UAP witnesses, Commander Fravor and Lieutenant Graves, Dr. Kirkpatrick intentionally or ignorantly conflated critical factual issues, making me think that he literally doesn't understand human language. In some industries, that's kind of blind spot is called bad intel. But in this case, it's likely poor judgment or character, or downright intentional manipulation of semantics for misdirection. I'm not going to let that kind of crap go unchecked. Not at this critical moment in our history, when the world is watching how people like David Grusch, a true whistleblower by definition, is being treated by our government agencies in public. Especially, I'm not going to be silent after Dr. Kirkpatrick has been given all reasonable opportunities to be straight and honest with the American public, and has objectively failed while bestowed with the great duty and privilege. Because guess what? Dr. Kirkpatrick has not earned your trust. And when you learn more of the truth soon, you will find out he's damaged that important bridge of trust between you and truth. To be crystal clear, Dr. Kirkpatrick attempted to represent his response letter about AARO and his employees as a personal letter, but he missed the target and dug himself a deeper hole. He doesn't get that y'all are listening, that together you all are powerful, smart, and watching. So, I mean, there's something that's to be said right there. Nikki, what's your thoughts?
I had a little bit of a bad interaction with Sean Kirkpatrick going kind of back a couple of years ago. Anyway, I try and figure out who's not counterintelligence, like your Richard Doty's out there compared to, because I mean, at one point or another, they've all kind of stood in this very same, like, this is one thing, we're going to all of a sudden start calling them parasites, or it's a threat, like you said. But this has been here for so long that at this point, I have no hope, like zero hope, that he is doing nothing more than pacifying us through whatever it is. Because how many more times can we go around in the cycle and think, well, gosh, are they telling us the truth? And then I'm just going to assume they're not at this point. And he's telling us he's not telling the truth in so many ways. And it's like he doesn't really even care. So that's a part I think that really starts to rub me the wrong way. It's like, so all these people are privy to this information that trying about everything to uncover about our own lives. But yet, for some reason, why do they get to know? I mean, why do they get to play these little games? Why do they? Because what it ultimately comes down to is our truth and our reality. And I guess I feel like that's, it's amounting to more and more of that. Not that I think it's a bad, or I can't remember the word you called it going back earlier, with our government or with other people, or bad relationships like that. I just blatantly think that they don't really care what our truth is, or if we ever get it, for that matter. So that's where I start to break away from the whole disclosure. Do I believe them? Do I not believe them? I don't believe any of them right now. That's the point.
I think the big point of it right now is Kirkpatrick is backpedaling. He's backpedaling because he's got a lot of masters above him who do not want this story coming to fruition.
Absolutely.
He has a lot of people that he needs to answer to. And man, even if he's only in the job another year before he goes into civilian contracting, he wants to make sure that he has, toes the line. There's a pension involved. There is a lot of money involved in that position for him, his family. Okay, so he's not going to run over and start, hugging babies or kissing babies and hugging the ladies in order to, make people happy. He's worried about himself right now, right? I mean, that's the truth of it all. And when you start throwing people under the bus, like he did with David Grusch, Commander Fravor, and Lieutenant Graves, these are the people who helped you get there. You have a job because these people open their mouths. Why not do your job? Just do your job. That's it. Instead of sitting there saying, we're looking into it. We're looking into it. I mean, I don't know about you, but the way, if you've heard Sean Kirkpatrick talk, you could tell he drives a beige Volvo with very few options in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's a very good way
Okay.
of putting it. Yes.
All right. And Kirkpatrick is going to be called out. Okay. Now, I apologize. I said he put this on Twitter. Apparently, it was on his LinkedIn account. So I do want to make that clarification. But it's all over Twitter now. And now everybody is running rampant with it. And they're going to. He gave them the ammunition for no reason. Look, sometimes you got to just sit down and shut up. Okay. And you have to take your lumps, whether you like it or not. There's a time to drop, an old hockey term is there's a time to drop the gloves and there's a time not to. This was not the time to drop the gloves because you just made yourself look like an idiot in front of a bunch of Congress people, a bunch of elected officials, and the people who are trying to get the story out. Okay. If you wanted to talk that bad, Sean Kirkpatrick, why didn't you put your name forward? And saying that that Congress didn't invite you, they invited you last time. And what did you do? You painted the room with beige paint, the most boring color ever.
His ego is way too big for any of this. And it's like the truth, can we just boil down to the truth? It almost seems they're going out of their way to stop us from getting any sort of truth. And that's frustrating.
Well, I mean, don't forget, like I said, there's a lot of money involved. Okay. And this is why I tell people all the time, I do not believe we are in a disclosure movement. I believe we are in a confirmation movement. So that way, people like us three, the people in our chat rooms, other people who have YouTube channels will finally shut up and go away. Because they don't want us there.
Away. I will not be going away. I'm going to keep going.
You aren't the problem, though. I'm not the problem. It's mainstream media. It's News Nation right now who's taken the lead on this. It's people like that have put the pressure on. Okay, CNN's finally covering it. Fox News is covering it. It's all over
yeah,
Twitter.
it's everywhere.
NBC. Okay. Other countries are covering this now. Okay. The story is getting ready. So don't forget, there's decades of secrets that need to be covered up before we could push this anywhere forward. Decades.
Yeah. The one thing that people keep saying it, and this is something that's not is talked about, but we still don't know what the phenomenon might do. Like they might just show up on the White House lawn, like everybody says. They've already demonstrated technological superiority. I mean, that's kind of what the military says they're concerned about. There's nothing we can do. The pilots said the other day during the hearing that if they ever were to become hostile, there's no way we could defend against it. They've already made that very clear. So the idea that they can't just land on the White House lawn, well, they obviously do not want to be fully known. They just want to kind of like let us know, yeah, there's nothing we can do about us. But they could, if they wanted to, just show up. They don't.
All right, Marquise Williams, Nicole Weber, we got you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. When we return, this is an emotional topic for a lot of people. We're going to carry those emotions into the next half hour and whatever else comes up as well. This is the Roundtable on Spaced Out Radio. All right, before we chat, I want to say hi, Discog. Welcome to SOR Chat. Coral Karina, welcome back. And CeeLo, good to have you back. Thank you, Simon, for the super chat. Very much appreciate it. And who else has shown up here? Let's see here. Merle was here earlier. Thank you all for merling it up. I appreciate that. Yeah, when Fylth comes back, we'll hit him up for Fylth. If you're we'll hit him up when he comes back. I haven't had a chance yet. Hold on, there's Dirty. Is there
here all night here?
Hi, Bombshell Bomber, Felipe, and Carla. Good to have you here. Dirty Fylth, is there an update on how Blob is feeling?
Blob is fine. Sorry.
Good.
I was just going to show some cartoons here.
I like Moody Mogul's comment. Dr. Kirkpatrick stated that none of the Spaced Out Radio presenters really exist. They are a hallucination in our collective consciousness generated by the accidental inhalation of swamp gas.
Seems plausible.
Is beautiful.
Seems plausible.
Hello there, Aaron Heisner. How you doing? Yes. Merle it up, people. You never go wrong with merling it up. Dirty Fylth is going to just put us through a cartoon. Here, I'll make it bigger.
A slideshow.
A little slideshow there.
Those are so cool.
While Dirty is doing that, let us. I want to say thank you to all of our super chatters tonight. Starting off with Obi Flett, Forrest Louie, W. Decker, Lala Bright, Ken Brett, Boo the Beagle, Gizmo, Paul Murphy, Area 51, The Debster, Pix, Greg Maloney in Thailand, T-Bone, W. Decker again, Chuck G in Pittsburgh, Jeffrey Green, Nico Cheeto, Paez Richards, Charles Kerr, Brian Bowden for a hat trick, and See How We Are Living, Dry Toast, Jeremy Jones, King Ja for a hat trick, Jenny and Dogface Simon in Australia. Much love. Thank you so much for the love and support, everybody. As Vinman says, tonight's broadcast is rated M for Merle. Yep. Merle. That's what we love around here. Little Merlin up.
I have no cartoons of Merle because I gave all of them to Merle when we were in Vegas earlier this year.
Oh, he appreciated that, dude. He was blown away by that.
I hope so.
Blown away.
Sasquatch, Mothman, pizza in the forest. Can't go wrong with that.
I can't wait to get in the forest tomorrow night.
Make sure you bring a slice of cheese pizza, Dave. It's a neutral type of smell. It's not like it's gonna attract bears or anything.
Yeah. Everything attracts bears.
Yeah, it pretty much does. Especially Dave stumbling around. He's like, "Hey, Sasquatch, where are you?" Huge bear comes tumbling out, and
It's true.
if you're lucky, Sasquatch can grab him and suplex him and save you. Get back to the truck.
You would hope. You would hope. You would hope. You never know, though. You never know. I can't believe we got half an hour left.
Yeah.
It's insane.
There's so much. There's so much more to dig into with this. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we barely scratched the surface of it, to be honest. There's so much.
100%, dude. 100%.
Yeah.
So just so our radio audience or our YouTube audience knows, I am right after the show. I got to cut this up. I got to get ready for bed because I work in the morning on my daytime job. But Nicole and Marquise, if you guys could stick around for a couple minutes after, just go over a couple things, and that would be great. And doing well tonight. Doing very well tonight.
Works for me.
Moody Mogul's on fire. Dr. Kirkpatrick has a T-shirt that reads, "If a UFO crashed in the forest and no one was there to hear it, did it really happen?"
Oh, man.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got 25 seconds. Thank you to all our new subscribers tonight. Do us a favor, ring that bell, hit that thumbs up. Let's try and get 200 thumbs up for this one tonight, if we don't mind. We're at 181. We need 19 thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it. It helps with the our algorithms, if you don't mind. Thank you so much. And here we go, everybody, with the final half hour. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Final time tonight, we introduce our great panel of Marquise Williams and Nicole Weber here on Spaced Out Radio's Roundtable that happens near the end of each month, where we talk about the month that was, and this was another great month for UFO news, topics, emotion. It was a busy month, a tiring month, lots of things going on behind the scenes. I want to ask you, Marquise, we'll start with you on this one, regarding the fact that Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp had front row center for this. It seemed like they were doing a little bit more than just their podcast for Weaponized and George's incredible 40-plus year job with KLS TV in Las Vegas. What do you think was going on there?
I think that, I mean, I listened to Jeremy Corbell speak about this afterwards and say that he's essentially, David Grusch came to him first, right? He said David Grusch came to them first to talk about this whole thing. Cold Heart had been working with David Grusch for 2 years before this whole thing started. This is not, I think it's so interesting that all of these people are essentially all connected to the same effort of disclosure, or at least right now we've got confirmation. To your point, Dave, we can call this confirmation, but I think that their effort, ultimately the goal is disclosure. And it's interesting seeing them connected to this. They were telling the truth. They were telling us the truth. They've been telling us, you guys, it's coming. You guys there's more coming. Don't worry, guys. They kept motivating and keeping us focused on the goal, the end game, which is what we all claim to want. That is disclosure, whatever that means. We're not there yet. There's a long way to go. But again, I think it's so interesting that I always believed in those guys. They're my heroes. And to find out that my heroes are standing up there and their capes All right, they got their Superman capes on, the big S on their chest, and they're sitting behind David Grusch, the head Kryptonian. I think that was awesome. I think that was awesome. The sun was shining for those Kryptonians that day, and I think it's telling that they are the ones a part of this. And I'm going to go back and look at the things that they suggested about the phenomenon now, because if they're a part of this whole push, well, David Grusch has to know what their perspectives are. They have to have had conversations behind closed doors, and I would think that if you want to know the truth, at least the truth according to Grusch and and Jeremy Corbell and them, you're going to find it through those breadcrumbs they left for the last couple of years, and especially these last couple months as they started weaponized.
Nicole, your thoughts?
Oh boy.
Tell me
let
I'm
me
wrong,
all
Nicole, now
right. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, they are buddy. They hang around each other. I haven't found, it like you said, there's an obvious, he's always there. He is always there. It's like, oh, there we go. There's Jeremy Corbell. He's in the van with it's like, so I have a little bit of just distrust with him and Bob Lazar, the whole situation that happened there. And so I'm not quite as trusting in that in the back end story of a lot of these guys on how they were found, and George Knapp and his connection to the Navy and just different things that makes me just a little bit more skeptical of him at this point in time. But before I give you all out, I'd like to work into it and kind of find out where where you trust them, so to speak, because I just assume so much of this, even people like Richard Doty, it's counterintelligence. Anytime counterintelligence is mixed in here, like you said, there are nuggets of truth. Absolutely, 100%. Those are the nuggets I'm here for. But do I necessarily, if we were as a character witness, for example, Bob Lazar, would he pass 4 lie detector tests, but they were all given by George Knapp? It's just kind of those types of things that creates a little bit more of distrust in me, I guess.
I understand that. I have to respect that perspective, because to be honest, we could all be wrong about this whole thing. This could literally all be a hallucination that we just so happen to share because we're in a simulation and we share a consciousness. Seriously, I'm not being facetious when I say that. It is very possible, and if you're gonna anything is possible, but there are more likely possibilities, and the simulation theory is a possibility. It's a very good theory to think about. Or the holographic universe, especially given that Grusch mentioned this idea before in the hearing. I compare again. I think about the amalgamation of data. If you guys don't know that I'm an astute learner, maybe I'm not doing a good job at trying to demonstrate that, but I do spend a lot of time reading and researching. As a matter of fact, I spend all of my time reading and researching, and I'm not a 2-decade plus veteran like Dave, or for yourself. I'm not sure how long you've been investigating, but I bet it's longer than I have. But at least in terms of my investigation so far, I think we can at least say that I'm trying my best to stay up on not only the current situation of this phenomena, but also the past, and see what the people that are involved with directly investigating the phenomena, that have collected data on the phenomena, that have spoken to direct witnesses of the phenomena. That's who I look to for answers that I couldn't possibly get just from listening to people that say they've had experiences, because there is a manipulation, or if you will, an influence by the phenomena on the experiencer. How do you look at that from an objective perspective? By removing yourself from that and looking at the data. If you're standing, in any position looking at a thing, you're going to have a perspective that's visceral if you're in it, and not until you step out of that situation can you see it from a clear perspective. Now, not only do you have to step out of the situation, meaning if you're an experiencer, you got to step out of that experience and say what else might be going on here. You also have to look at the amalgamation of data by those who are scientifically studying this phenomena and those who are firsthand witnesses. And according to them, that's what I base my thinking about this phenomena off of. So to your point about whether or not they are the counterintelligence agent like Richard Doty is an admitted counterintelligence agent against the American people, an admitted one. David Grusch is not, and he's getting processes started that we've all been begging for since 1960 or 1950, if you will, for Project Blue Book. I think that it's important to recognize the difference between Doty and Grusch, and it's vastly different. Again, Doty, admitted disinformation agent. Grusch is risking his life to tell the truth about this phenomenon.
But Doty didn't always start off in that way. So I'm just not as familiar with Grusch as you are, but believe me, after
I mean,
talking
Doty's
to you, I'm gonna go in and do a ton more
yeah.
research.
Don't
on it.
listen if you've never heard anything that I've ever said, because I've got a perspective. You can't take somebody's perspective as truth. You need to look at it yourself.
Absolutely not,
I'm
yeah.
with you. Like, you got to look for it yourself. That's a great point, because what people do is a lot of people depend on us to do the research. They don't have the time. Like, maybe they're working all day long, and they need us to be authentic, to be honest, to be passionate about this, so we can give them ideas that they might not have thought of, and inspire them to when they have time to look into this stuff. And they need different perspectives. They need that. That's all I'm trying to do, is offer a perspective that's very different. It diverts from the general UFO community. The most people believe very much so, like what's been mentioned a lot of times in the public, and that is that, oh, Doty has been disinformation agent, but he says he's with us now because aliens eat ice cream. They like ice cream. I mean, I'm not talking about you, by the way. Somebody else told me, like, oh, well, he said that they eat ice cream. They like strawberry ice cream. And so, it's like, get the freak out of here. Come on. Like, you're going to go with that versus the amalgamation of data that say that David Grusch is exactly what we need for disclosure. No one else has gotten congressional oversight. The Congressional Oversight Committee involved in this has gotten amendments written, has galvanized members of Congress. Are you kidding me? Never has this ever happened before. It's happening now, and it's happening because of David Grusch, and if you will, because of Jeremy Corbell, because of George Knapp, because of Ross Coulthart, and because of again, if you will, to the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge, Jim Semivan, Lou Elizondo, and the like. It's there. They are why we're here today.
TTSA thing, man. TTSA did nothing. They did nothing.
Well, I mean, I get what I mean is
They
the players,
sold
right?
t-shirts.
The players, their whole purpose was to, again, they're thinking about this. If you think about what their objective was, how do we get people involved in the UFO phenomenon, the topic? We want to influence the public into believing, to seeing that this is a real phenomenon. It's entertainment, it's media, it's the t-shirts, the movies, the books. That's how you get people interested in the phenomenon.
Which none of them have come out.
Because their mission,
That, and they
essentially,
had people investing money who took their whole life savings and put it into
that's
it.
They themselves invested money. Tom DeLonge invested millions into the Stars Academy. Millions. It didn't work out. And so
he invested zero.
Yeah.
That is not
Tom
what
DeLonge
says.
Tom DeLonge, if you look at the finances, Tom DeLonge got paid $700. If I could finish, please. Tom DeLonge got paid $750,000 of the first $2.5 million raised, and that was to get rid of his other debts for a company, a hot dog stand company, R2 Dogs, that went broke in San Diego.
I'm going to send you the article on that, financials of that.
I don't need the article. I know the inside story on it.
So then Jim Semivan's lying?
Jim Semivan is sticking with Tom DeLonge because of the money that he invested into it. He wants.
I mentioned the black budget funding. That's when.
TTSA had nothing to do with black budget funding. Nothing.
The back end.
But Ellis, I mean, DeLonge did not. I mean, for people to sit there and say that DeLonge set all of this up, that is completely fraudulent.
No,
I didn't. I said that he had a hand in it. Just like, again, we're talking about it.
I just think the back door, like you look at NIDS and then you look at all of the other ones, and we have Dr. Hal put off. The TTSA may not directly have been black budget funded, but the other areas that have flown into overflow, off of Bigelow and all that.
Here's the thing: if Tom DeLonge chose his own team, why did every player on that team once work for Robert Bigelow?
I'm sorry, what?
Why did almost every member of that team, the original team, work for Robert Bigelow?
I still don't see what the problem is with that. I don't get it. I don't understand why you need funding to go to a billionaire.
It's because Tom DeLonge did not choose the team. The team was already set. They needed somebody with millions of subscribers who is a UFO nut in order to get the message out on what they wanted to start. That's what it was. That's why he got invited out of nowhere to a Lockheed Martin or Lockheed Skunk Works family picnic. You think that wasn't on purpose?
Are you talking about DeLong, or are you talking about
DeLong?
Okay.
DeLong.
I will say, you know, I have this feeling that, like, you again, I am very like off key with the UFO community when it comes to my perspective. I think that I put less weight on DeLong and more on Elizondo and to the Stars Academy, and more weight on Elizondo, again, because we're talking about an official intelligence officer or counterintelligence agent who came out and made these, you know, talked about these things in 2017, worked with Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal. And then I put more weight into David Grusch, and I ask, what's the chain of custody, so to speak, of this effort? The chain of custody starts with DeLong. It's not that he's the arbiter of truth. It's just like there is something to that. There's something to that. It doesn't mean he's the main guy. There's something to that in my mind. I just don't know exactly, because you're mentioning things I'm not familiar with at all. You know what I've studied, my research. I don't have insider knowledge like that. I got to be honest with you. But when it comes to like what's available publicly, and things like that, I'm looking at the chain of custody of this movement, and the chain of custody starts with Elizondo, DeLong, Jim Semivan. It starts there, and then it moves on to now with Ross Coulthart, Grusch, and Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp and Leslie Kean. It moves on there, and what do they say? They say that there's the reason why that we probably, if we don't get disclosure, it's because people don't want the truth. They want to be told a fairy tale. Tell me that they're here to help me, or else I don't want to hear it. It's a false flag. It's a psyop. It's all an operation against the American people. It's Project Bluebeam. And if we take it that way, what if the truth is something else? What if the truth is something in between? What if the truth is just not? It's just not like, it's just different. It's just not. They're here as a scientific exploration, and they need our DNA, and they do these things because they just need it, and they don't want to kill us, but they also don't want to help us, and they're doing harmful things to us. Do we say, well, we're just going to let them, or do we say, like, try to communicate to them and say, hey, listen, what you're doing is affecting our population. Could you please stop? Again, there's a rejection of disclosure. That is a problem. What are we doing here? We're rejecting disclosure because we don't like certain people. That's it. That's what we're doing.
So why did DeLong get almost bounced from his own group?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. Again, I put more weight on Grusch, and
I'm going to answer that for you. DeLong almost got. Let's see, when the three left, which was Elizondo, Chris Mellon, and Steve Justice.
Oh, you're talking about that situation. Yeah. Okay.
They left because Tom DeLong, his mouth and his social media were uncontrollable. Lou Elizondo never wanted to be the face of the franchise. Okay. Right. He was forced into that after DeLong made some extremely suggestive comments on Joe Rogan about whipping out his private parts on camera, which is not very governmental. And then talking and showing videos of fake UFOs on the Joe Rogan Experience. That's what
you mean
started.
The TR3B?
There were a couple videos that he played on there that were fake.
He went right just to YouTube. He didn't go to the guy that was in his book.
No.
He went just right to YouTube, pull him on
plus
up.
The swearing, plus his social media of what if I were to tell you, and then play another fake video. Okay. Yeah. That's why people were screenshotting the hell out of what DeLong was saying, because he would pull it down after an hour or two, after the rest of the team would say, what are you doing? Why are you mentioning names? Why are you playing fake videos? Okay. We're trying to build credibility. Why didn't the TTSA website have anything to do with UFOs? They're an entertainment company that was allegedly looking into UFOs, yet there wasn't one word about UFOs or UAP on their website.
Yeah, let's dispel Tom DeLong and talk about Jim Semivan and Elizondo. What's their perspective? I mean, we can. I have no problem writing in a sense, in the public conversation, Tom DeLonge, because he's too controversial, way too controversial. I completely with you on that. But is what he said consistent with what Elizondo and Jim Semivan and others have said? The answer is yes. Even if you look at what Eric Davis has mentioned about the phenomena being very well connected with poltergeist effects, Skinwalker
Absolutely.
Ranch, yeah,
The
and I think that
is everything. The phenomena is everything. And the more people study this, you will learn that the phenomena is paranormal. It's cryptid. It's near-death experiences. It's UFOs. It's aliens. Okay? It is
Yeah,
absolutely everything. Okay? Semivan, what he experienced with his wife scared the daylights out of him.
right.
Okay? But if you talk to Jim Semivan, he'll tell you that he doesn't know what went on. He doesn't know if he was hurt. He was scared because him and his wife woke up and there were gray beings in his bedroom. That's what scared him, not the overall being taken. He doesn't know what happened. Okay. And there are certain people in positions like Jim who, when they sign NDAs, they are not allowed to go through any type of regression therapy to find out what's going on, because they can't take a chance at the regression therapist bringing things out that are covered by an NDA. Okay.
I think,
Dr. Bob McGuire will tell you the exact same thing. He cannot have regression therapy because of his NDAs. Elizondo will tell you that. They can't do it.
Yeah. I think that
Okay.
if you listen to the interview with Jim Semivan and what happened to him, I think you'd come away with a very different take. I think he absolutely thinks the phenomena is not a friendly thing. I think he explicitly talks about that in his interview, where he mentioned his experience he doesn't even like talking about the experience because of how it makes him feel. I mean, this is what he said during his interviews. I think that if you listen to Jim Semivan, it is not like this benign uncertainty about the phenomena's potential intentions. And I think that if you listen to Elizondo, one of the things that he warns against is he talks about the issue with talking to the UFO community about the nature of the phenomena, because of they're going to reject it. And if they reject it, they're going to fight against disclosure. And we need to get disclosure out because we need people to know what's going on.
Okay, so if that is the case, why did Tom DeLonge a week before
I put Tom DeLonge out. I get it. I can't.
Okay, but hold on. This is important to what you're saying. Okay, a week before the To the Stars Academy came out publicly, Tom DeLonge tried to buy the statistics of the free experiencers, which is the 5,000 page report.
I heard about that.
Okay, so for our audience who didn't, and we're running out of time, we only got about a minute. That is a study that says 84% of all experiencers had a positive experience and would like it to happen again. Tom DeLonge comes from a long line of researchers influenced by a gentleman named Peter Lavenda, who believes that all aliens are the Antichrist and they're demons and they should not be allowed on Earth, which is why Tom went nuts on Joe Rogan, saying we got to put nukes up in space so when the aliens come, we can shoot them down. They're afraid of our nuclear weapons, which is not true. Okay, so a week before, nobody has asked DeLonge about why he tried to buy the stats if his belief is contrary. And on that note, unfortunately, I get the last word on that. And I want to say a big thank you to Thomas Fessler from Disclosure Tonight, who joined us for the first 2 hours. Our good friend Marquise Williams, who joined us. And you can listen to Marquise every weekend here on Spaced Out Radio on the After Hours, as well as Nicole Weber, experiencer and researcher into the phenomena. A great roundtable to end the month of July. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. All right, I want to say a big thank you to our super chatters of the night before we say goodbye. Obi Flett, Louie, W. Decker, Lala, Ken, Boo, Paul, Fairy 51, Deb, Pix, Greg in Thailand, T-Bone, W. Decker again, Chuck, Jeffrey, Zoe Cheadle, Charles, Brian, Louie again, See How We Are Living, Brian Bowden ×3, Dry Toast, Louie again, Jeremy, King ×3 in a row, and Natural Hat-Trick, Jenny and Simon. Thank you for the love, everyone. Really appreciate it. I apologize. There's not going to be any editing tonight because I got to get to bed and I got to chat with these two quickly. Of course, all positive thoughts because Marquise has such beautiful hair. But we're going to say goodnight to all of you, and we will see you on Monday. And don't forget, this weekend you have Jessica Jones with the Cryptid Huntress coming up, followed by Marquise Williams and the After Hours show. His special guest will be Nicole Saturday and Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. And I know it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to be checking it out. I hope you guys do too. Thank you for the love. Thank you to all our new subscribers for coming on in tonight. Very much appreciated. And good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.